An age ago, the beating heart of our people was a king who knew only victory. He wanted nothing more than an honorable death on the battlefield. Yet, none could match him, and so he wandered the earth, becoming lost in time and tide. Then we too lost our honest purpose, while silk-clad men sat upon the throne. But tremble now, all cities that lay under the stars, for out of the shadows and mists of the land of promise, our courage has been rekindled, our heart has returned, and the world will burn.
Hey, how you doing? Why we that always happens. Hey, how you doing? This is John and RJ, and welcome to Comic Book Team Up. How you doing, everybody?
So we got some regulars in the chat already.
Yeah. Thank you guys for showing. I know RJ and I have been playing whatever, Ring Around the Rosie with the times. We're on Thursday. RJ, is this the new time forever or just for a couple of weeks?
I'm not sure about that. Right now, we could move back to Wednesday, but then we might have to move back to Thursday in a month. So
Okay.
I don't know.
So we'll stay on Thursdays for the time being. I mean, it makes no difference whether we do Wednesdays or Thursdays. We'll just try to be consistent. And the only so we'll be Thursdays. We'll lock that in for now on until the next time we got to change. But it's either 7 or 8:30, depending upon whether I'm working overtime. Now here, RJ, I tell you, next week I'm working that crazy shift 2:30 to 11. So next Thursday, I can't stream until midnight.
We could make it Wednesday next week if we really need to.
Okay, so well, either way, it's got to be midnight next week because I'm working that, and I'm so happy that I'm working because that means I'm out of the heat. Oh my God, it's unbearable. Today I almost cried. It's just so hot.
He's disguising the tears because of the sweat dripping down off his face.
Yeah. No, my wife freaks out, and she's right. The past 3 years in a row, I fainted from the heat, and the last year was I fainted. That's when I broke my neck. So she's like nervous. So I'm taking off the whole month of August to avoid the heat, and next week they graciously gave me the mid shift. So from 2:30 to 10:30, I'll be working. So out of the heat. So other than that, how's everything? Are you dying of the heat up there? In the Great
No, it's not too bad. Like I was saying earlier, it's about 83, so it's not too bad. It's nice, go to the beach weather. So
nice.
But you got a lot of storms, like thunderstorms and lightning.
Oh yeah, yesterday I got into my car. It was drizzling, And I always drive down to Dunkin' Donuts, get a cup of coffee in the morning. And by the time I got out of the Dunkin' Donuts, it was like a biblical storm, like lightning out of. And I was like, oh man, I don't want to take off because we're off Friday. But I was scared to drive. You couldn't see I was on the highway going like 35 miles an hour, and then it just stopped. I was like, oh, thank God, And by the time I got to work, it was as if it didn't rain at all. But it was scary for a second.
And my lawn was turning into a jungle just because it wouldn't get dry enough for me to cut it, and it was almost up to my knees.
Yeah, I gotta mow my lawn. I gotta, and I've been wanted to wash my car, and my wife says it's gonna thunderstorm here in New York the whole 3-day weekend. So I guess I'm not washing my car. Yeah, I want to do like, I want to say something to the viewing audience. George Washington didn't invent the barbecue for you guys not to barbecue this weekend. So just remember, if you don't barbecue this weekend, you love the British. So I last year I didn't, well, just because my neck was broken, I didn't use my barbecue at all. I got myself a nice grill, so I'm going to, tomorrow when I wake up, I got to wake up early before it gets hot, go get myself some propane. Yes, I have a propane grill, and then take the hood off of it and clean. I didn't clean it since 2 years ago. So that's my test tomorrow. And laundry. Ain't I exciting? I'm an exciting person. Clean the grill, do laundry.
Clean the grill to get ready for 4th of July. You got to be specific here, John.
Oh, and I got my pistol license a year ago. I still didn't get a pistol. I think next week. I'll get the pistol. Got all my bills caught up. So next week, guys.
You got a range, or are you just going to use your backyard?
No, my backyard's too small. But my wife and I, we bought a small house with a small plot of land. I unlike you, I don't want to take care of a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? So we got ourselves. We could wave and see the neighbors in the backyard. You know what I mean? Typical suburbs.
That's what I always wanted to build because I have enough space. I always wanted to build a range in the back, right, for the bow and arrow and for the rifles and shotguns. You just got to check the sights every once in a while.
It's funny that you said that because my next door neighbor cut down a tree. Like we both got trees removed. Well, I got a bunch of limbs removed. I still left the tree, but she got the whole tree removed, and they chopped it up, and they had these perfectly round discs. And I was gonna take one and put it in the backyard and put some legs on it and use it to throw get hatchets and throw it, paint it to look like a bullseye. And I was like, oh, that's a good one. I'm gonna get that tomorrow. And it was all gone overnight. All the wood was gone. So you snooze, you lose.
There's a strange thing going on here the last couple of years. Somebody, a hatchet throwing, it's basically like a trailer for a truck, but it's enclosed with some kind of mesh. So you throw the hatchet inside, and he just drives around as an attraction and lets people throw the hatchet while they're inside the back.
Oh, yeah, it's funny that you brought up bow and arrows. As a kid, my friend Jimmy and I, his crazy father. What kind of father buys a 12-year-old kid a compound bow, right? Like with the wheels and everything like that.
Yeah.
And I remember when you pulled it, because we were both into Hawkeye, the Avenger. And I remember when you pulled it, it was really tough. But then all of a sudden you got a certain point and it was easy. Like, I don't know if you're a bow and arrow guy. Maybe you could explain that. But it's hard to pull, and then it gets easy. So we were pulling this thing all the way back. And we set up a target. And we put it right on his garage door. And boom, right through the target. Right through the garage door. Boom.
Yeah, compound bow has got wicked strength, huh?
Yeah, I'm like, I'm going home, Jimmy. I'm not going to be here when your father beats you. And then I'll never forget, like a couple of weeks later, he was showing it to a friend, and the friend was pulling it back with the arrow, and then he accidentally let it loose, and it just shot. Like Hiawatha, he shot the arrow in the air. Where it landed, we know not where, but it was the suburbs. So, I was like, I'm going home, Jimmy, and we never saw the bow again. So I don't know whatever. I got to ask him about that. We're still friends.
That's funny. My brothers and I always said we'd order like magazine order or comic order throwing stars, right? And we'd practice with the throwing stars. I remember one time I had to climb up on something to get the throwing stars because they were so high up, and then I fell off it. Woke up on the cement probably like 3/4 of an hour later because I was all by myself. My head just gushing blood from the back of it. Right.
Oh, God,
So,
throwing stars. You just brought back memories. The, for a while, I guess we were in like 7th or 8th grade. Throwing stars were all the rage, and we all bought them and bigger, more ornamental. Like I get like a ninja, I guess, puts them in a bag and hides them, but like these were like as big as like dinner plates, and we couldn't throw them. Like we'd throw them, we did no training. Plus they weren't sharp, but it was like we had ninja stars. Like the three of us were walking around the street like we're the toughest gang in the
but I still have, because we have, not because I collect them, but I have a bunch of knives and they're just all over the house. But one I still have from my childhood, which was the throwing knife, the ones that's pure black and it's just one piece of metal, right?
Yeah.
I think I have it on the bookcase right next to me.
Yeah. I do want to get hatchets and maybe a target for the backyard, throw hatchets. But did you go through a nunchuck phase?
Oh yeah, I still have a pair of nunchucks.
Yeah, I went through a nunchuck. All I did was smash my elbows and throw them on the ground. Like we've come to the conclusion. Just if we think we're gonna like beat up people with nunchucks or whatever, just get a stick. You can depend on a stick. Nunchucks, they were more of a threat to me.
I think I said this before, John. If you're looking for a good hatchet, go with SOG, SOG. They're best hatchets you can buy, and they have ones that are actually built like Indian hatchets, right? So
Okay.
with the long handle on them and the short head. So if you're looking for a hatchet, best hatchets on the market.
So there you go. Come to Comic Book Team Up for all your weapon needs.
Bill hooks. I don't know. Someone out there tells me what's the best style of bill hook. I'm used to using the bill hook. That's my weapon of choice, as John knows.
Weapon. Oh, okay. So let's do some accounting first. Crom the Destroyer is available on Fund My Comic right now. RJ, you're just about done. We were talking, right?
Oh yeah, my inker he's almost half done, not quite. He's working on chapter 2 right now. He's moving. He's
Nice.
giving me at least a page a day.
Nice. There you go. So RJ will be shipping that soon. And not to beat a dead horse, you've had every setback in the world with that comic, and I can only imagine how frustrating it is. But the end is in sight, and I know RJ's got other comics loaded up and ready
Waiting
to go.
in the wings. I want to write
done.
like 2 stories right now. It's 2 stories I'm chomping at the bit to write, but I gotta put my concentration on getting Crom the Destroyer out. I just got the raw files for the art book today. We have them all ready now, so great stuff.
So I might as well bring this up. This is so next Friday, it's Christmas in July. I'm going to launch the Heroic Tales Christmas special on Kickstarter. It's done. The comic's done, guys. So there is no risk involved. I know I'm breaking the crowdfunding rules. The comic is done. Just getting the lettering. The lettering takes another day or two, and we are done. And Kickstarter allows add-ons, so there's more choices. You can more backstock. You can get more things. So please, even if you got it on Fund My Comic, thank you very much. But check it out on Kickstarter. Like all my backstock will be available. And if you want to get stuff on on Kickstarter and you already got it on Fund My Comic, just let me know. I'll reimburse you for the shipping. I'm not out here to screw anybody, but like I put my card packs, other add-ons that I wasn't able to put on Fund My Comic. And but Luke's saying he's updating Fund My Comic. I'm still gonna launch everything on Fund My Comic first. But like I said, as of right now, Kickstarter gives you more options. So check that out. And the comic's done. And Patriarch #1, oh my God. Like Renzo, I guess he finished up this comic, then he finished up something for Aaron Sparrow, and he is like churning out the pages. So I don't know. Do I dare have 2 open campaigns at the same time? I don't know. That's up to you guys. But man, like I'm getting things done before I launch them now. So this is my schedule, ladies and gentlemen. This Christmas special is pretty much done. I'm just going to do this campaign on Kickstarter and then start shipping out. I'm going to start shipping out the Fund My Comic stuff as soon as I get the comics, which will probably be in a month. And then the Patriarch #1 will be done. I'm being cagey what I'm doing with that yet, but it will be completely finished before I launch the campaign. And then Renzo's going to go right to work on the second Mary Sue story, because half of Heroic Tales 3 is already done. And then we get that. Then then Renzo is going to work on the Chuck Dixon and myself script. We have a sci-fi script that it's done. It's done. When you work with Chuck Dixon, you gotta step up your speed. So that's done. So Renzo's gonna do all 3 of these. And in the meantime, I got other people working on stuff. I got a secret project. I know if the person I'm working with, he that was his condition. Don't tell anybody what it is until it's done. But the secret project's almost done. And I already pitched him the idea for the sequel. And he was like, "You're killing me." But the sequel is so good. I'm excited. But anyway, we got a lot of stuff going on. Marcus is just about done with the Public Eye. It's an introduction story. When I wrote it, I was thinking of like 6 to 8 pages, trying to copy like Will Eisner did everything. But I think the second story is going to have to be more than 6 to 8 pages. I'm not good like Eisner. I can't just condense everything down. But but anyway, I could go on and on and on. But I got a lot of stuff coming out. Oh, one last chill. Bill Williams has Giant Size Punchline #1. That's going to be launching any second now. And I have a 12-page story in that and a variant cover in that. So that's going to be going on crowdfunding. And then after that campaign, it's going to be in comic book stores. So I'm so excited. So excited. And we got Ryan Banks over here. I'm excited. Hello. How are you, Ryan? We got Zach Tan. Yes, we have a blessed Freedom Week. Ben Samar, voice actor. We're doing good. Jewel says, "Yo, better be a 9/11." You know what? I don't know if I get myself in trouble, but I had a Sig Sauer P229 and I sold it when I was in Albuquerque because I didn't want to bring it to New York. And I want to rebuy that gun. So I want to get that. That's the 40 caliber. But people are telling me don't get the 40 caliber, but that's what I want. So who knows? I also want a small revolver, just as long as it's not I don't like Glocks. I've never liked Glocks. And the whole time that everybody was talking about Glocks, I kept my mouth quiet. But I've shot them before, and they just don't feel right. I can't describe it, but I just don't like them. I just don't like them. Right? Hi guys, hopping in. Good to see you. Good to see you. Now we're all caught up.
I was funny enough, John. I was just having a conversation. I was sitting around a table with a couple of people, guys and gals, and somebody started talking about guns, and then somebody started talking about Glocks, and one of the women said, "What's a Glock?" And then I went into detail to describe what a Glock was, and they're all looking at me like I had 3.
Oh, you mansplained to her?
Yeah, I'm no mansplained to her, but the fact that I knew so much about this specific gun was like, okay, let's just step back a little bit. But I don't really know that much, just compared to most people around here.
Yeah.
I'm long arms. Just anybody knows I'm long arms.
What does that mean? Oh, you like rifles? Rifles
and shotguns, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even in New York, you could still get your rifles and shotguns without a license. So I got plenty of those, but pistols you need a license to have your constitutionally inalienable rights in New York. So I wanted to ask, my wife wanted to ask you, are you a Canadian citizen and an American citizen?
It's hard to tell. Like, after I've been here for a while, the expat thing kicks in, right? So I used to have a citizenship card for Canada, and I would have whatever, the normal birth certificate and all that other stuff in order to get my passport. But now if I look for a passport, I'll have to get a Canadian passport because I don't think they'll give me one because I've been here, or they won't give me an American one because I've been here so long that they would consider me expat right at the moment.
Oh, so, and then my follow-up question is, do you celebrate Canada Day? Because isn't that today?
No, it was yesterday. Yes and no. We went to fireworks, but around here, it's more like the local town has a fair, and there's fireworks afterwards, and there's a couple of flags. It's not really, the whole Canada Day thing for me. It's just local festival. There we go.
Yeah. I thought Canada Day is you all like walk backwards around the statue of Ganesh, what some Hindu god these days. Jewel, everyone likes to poop on the 40 caliber Smith & Wesson, but it's like pooping on Nickelback. I like the 40 caliber, if I may risk talking about guns too much on this channel, but it's got good knockback, and to me, a 38 doesn't have good knockback, and a 45 just destroys everything. So to me, a 40 caliber, if you hit your target is falling down. If you hit your target with a 38, they can still react, unless it's an instantaneous. And I'm going to keep this as video games. Unless it's an instantaneous score, the person could still, the target could still react to do things. But you ain't, knockback to me is more important. So that's why I like the 40 caliber. But the 45 is, you know what I mean? Like the jury is going to be like, that's overkill. So I think a 40 is a good compromise. But I don't know why people like to poop on it. And I also can't even name a Nickelback song. The only thing I know about Nickelback is that I'm supposed to not like them. And I actually am curious to play Nickelback and see what the problem is. If it's probably going to be like, oh, I remember that song. But I can't even name a Nickelback song. Yep. Not the based old flag. Yep. So there you go. Anyway, we got to change the subject before I get myself in YouTube trouble. Whenever I think it's going to be controversial, I just don't monetize the stream, and they don't care, Oh,
don't worry, everybody, don't worry. I monetize John all the time.
I got Genuine Comics Perfect 10 number 6, and I'm gonna go back and reread all 6 issues, because it's my favorite superhero comics right now. It's tacky to like your own. So these are my favorite superhero comics. I tell you, Dave Brink knows what he's doing. And he inspired me in 2 different ways. The first way is I'm writing a team versus a team. So a team of superheroes versus a team of villains. And I'm inspired by Dave Brink's this series because it's like 600 characters and he keeps them all organized. So that's a challenge. And the Perfect 10 character itself is inspiration for another character. No, I'm not going to have a sexy android girl, but I have a sexy girl character in mind. And I always think my new character is going to be my breakout character. We'll see. Rex says, photograph someday, hero from Spider-Man. If everybody cared, boom. I don't know any of these songs. I'm sure I know them if I heard them. Like I can't name a Justin Bieber song, and he was like the most popular guy on the planet at one point. I don't know. I like punk rock and I like Led Zeppelin. What do you want? They poop on the 40 because there came out 10. The metric was higher pressure bullet at the same time. Anyone pooping on is bracing the metric system. Okay. So all right. So cool. I didn't realize it, but I'm a man, even though I didn't realize it. I'll look him up. I was in an antique store in Lebanon, Ohio. They had some good secondhand comics, which was cool. But oh man, don't you love RJ? Do you have these? Thank you for putting us on track for comic books. But for some reason, out by me, there's a lot of like these flea market stores. So you go in and it's just like hundreds of vendors with little booths, and there's always 1 or 2 of them that just sell old comics, and like it's like they don't know the value of them or they don't care or whatever. So you could go in there and find some real good stuff. I found some old Legion of Superhero stuff from Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes back with Mike Grell. They were like $1 a piece in really good condition.
Yeah, we get the opposite here. Everybody who sells comics is like, this is worth a mint. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Nope, sorry, no. I'm not paying, $15, $20 for even like the John Byrne Avengers or something like that. I'm sorry, no, it's not worth that.
Yeah, it's funny because everybody with an old comic book thinks they're worth a fortune, and I'm known as the comic book guy at work, and everybody's like, "Oh, I got these," and I'm like, "Yeah, sure." I go, "What's the cover price?" And they never know the cover price. So I said, "Take a picture, take like a little video, send me the video." And it's like Image Comics from the '90s, or just whatever. And I'm like, "Yeah, congratulations, you got some fun comics. They're not worth anything, but they're fun comics." They don't care. They never read them. They bought them in the '90s because they thought they were going to be a fortune, And in my mind, I'm like, you're part of the reasons why my hobby is crap these days, because you just bought that to speculate, but whatever.
But speaking of good comics, I was just posting some FF stuff today with John Byrne run of Fantastic Four, but I was inspired because I was looking through my Walter Simonson run of Fantastic Four. So what's your favorite run of Fantastic Four, John?
Oh, my favorite run of Fantastic, I mean, you're supposed to say the Jack Kirby Stan Lee, and intellectually that is my answer, but emotionally it's the John Byrne run, because I was there when it happened. I was the perfect age for that. I was excited every month, and then like I got the comic, I was excited. John Byrne was already hot from X-Men, and then he was doing the Fantastic Four, and so it's because of the experience. And then years later, when I could afford it, I got the Stan Lee Jack Kirby run. I read a couple of them in collection, stuff like that, but I bought a collection from somebody that had every Fantastic Four from like 15 up. So, and then I with my first, when I became a full electrician, my first tax return, I went to the New York Comic Con, and I bought a copy of Fantastic Four #1. I was like, I don't care what it cost. This, 5 years it took me to get to this point, so I went and I got my tax return, and lo and behold, it's not the best condition, but I have a Fantastic Four #1. So the only Fantastic Four I'm missing is 2 and I think 19, something like that. So I got the Jack, and they are awesome. They are awesome. And they're better in the sense that they introduced everything, that they came up with all these original characters, but I didn't get them every month, you know what I mean, and have that teenage expectations. Can you imagine being 14 years old and Fantastic Four comes out and you get them every month, like Chuck Dixon did? That, I could see why him and Graham Nolan are still obsessed with those Fantastic Fours. But like Fantastic Four #12 is one of the greatest comics ever made, as far as just a great comic, great art, but it introduces the Red Skull, the Watcher, just so much Marvel lore comes from that particular issue. Yeah, and then John Byrne like cut through all of the extraneous stuff and went back to the Lee and Kirby. But I will say, so my Fantastic Four runs is the John Byrne #1, #2 the Lee Kirby, #3 is the George Perez run, which I'm going to start doing on my Sunday comics from like 150 to 200, and that was a couple of different artists, but mostly I call that the George Perez run. And then the Walt Simonson run. I hold that Walt Simonson run in high regard. And then if I keep on going, I'll say the Tom DeFalco, Paul Ryan run. That was so good.
Was that right before John Byrne, or late 70s?
Right before John Byrne was like a rotating cast of characters. It was right. Everybody. There was 2 John Byrne runs. The first John Byrne run was like around 204 to like 220. And then there was like almost like fill-in. Like every month there was somebody different. And then John Byrne took over at 236. So there's, I don't know what you know about Jewish mysticism, but the greater Yahweh and the lesser Yahweh. So there's the greater Byrne run and the lesser Byrne
run. I don't remember, because we had, Fantastic Four was one of the things whenever I went to a comic shop, I would look for the earliest Fantastic Four I have that they had, and I would buy them. Didn't matter condition, but I have like double digits, but nothing. I think it's probably like in the 20s is the first thing I have. Like I have the first appearance of him and all that kind of stuff. But what is it? My brother always bought the Fantastic Four in the 70s, so late 70s, and the run with like Agatha Harkness and Robbie the Robot, and it was not Robbie the Robot. What's the name of the robot? Herbie the Robot. Herbie the Robot, and the first real stuff with Franklin Richards and Molecule Man and all that kind of stuff. So I have a soft spot for that, because that's really the first stuff that I read. He was always reading it.
everybody talks about Batman. Who's got the greatest rogues gallery? And everybody brings a Batman, and they're not wrong. Batman's rogue. Don't get me wrong. Batman's rogue gallery is absolutely stellar. And then if they don't say Batman, they say Spider-Man. And again, Spider-Man's rogue gallery is outstanding. But I say that the greatest rogues gallery in comic books is the Fantastic Four's rogue gallery. I'm a little biased. It's my favorite comic book of all time. It's my favorite super team, but man, what a great rogues game. The Molecule Man, the Skrulls, Galactus, just every one of them is Marvel history. You got the Watcher, Kang, Doctor Doom, just amazing. The Mole Man. Every one of these guys is a hit. You really got to go far down the list to get a stinker of a Fantastic Four villain. Every one of them is phenomenal. And I'm not taking away from Batman or Spider-Man. I'm just saying Fantastic Four needs to be considered in the top 3 of comic book villain rogue galleries, And that's a tough list because there's a lot of cool villains. But yeah, I love the Fantastic Four.
I'm looking up here. I'm trying to find a good picture of the Fantastic Four poster that I had on my wall when I was a kid. There's some really good stuff.
This was definitely more of John's experience. Most were under $10. My sister got an old DuckTales comic just because, get them because you like them. I'm a firm advocate of buy the comics, read the comics, enjoy the comics. If you're buying comics because you want to make money, just get a 401k plan. It's more reliable, it's better, makes more sense. You know what I mean? It's less volatile, and you don't ruin the hobby for other people. I'm sorry, but like when I see these people with CGCs and stuff like that, I stopped talking with my cousin because he's like, "Oh, I'm into comic books," and I was like, "Oh," and he showed me he got the Marvel 2-in-1 Annual 3 with Nova and the Thing, and I was like, "Oh, I love that comic," and I said, the stupid plot with this, and he goes, "Oh, I don't know, I didn't read it. It's just I'm like, the why?" I was like, "Get out of my hobby then," and he's like, "What you got to do is you got to take your comics, you got to press them, and you got to put them under an iron and blah blah blah." And then so I'm like, "You're not a comic book fan. You're just a guy who wants to flip things. Like we all hate you." Oh yeah, I had this hanging up in my room too. Oh my God, I love this.
This one was above my bed.
It's funny. It's funny because remember John Byrne did that ad for Bolton's, and it was just like, "Why do you like working at Marvel?" And he says, "All the interesting people," and it's just John Byrne at the drawing table with everybody. Yes. It's funny because when that came out, this is what a stupid kid I was. I must have been 12, and I mailed John Byrne $1, care of Marvel Comics, and I asked him if he would draw that for me. So John Byrne's going to send me an original drawing of 900 characters for $1. And my rationale was a comic book was only 35 cents. So $1, how stupid, right? Yeah, I love this. I had that hanging up. I mean, look at that rogues gallery. The Infant Terrible, the Molecule Man, Sentries, Galactus, Dragon Man, Annihilus, the Inhumans, Dracula. I don't like Dracula in superhero comics. I would like it better if it was just random vampire guy, but like to be Dracula, I think it's too played out. Him, the Puppet Master, Quasimodo. Look at all of them.
That's one of the things I think that I think possibly that's the Jack Kirby legacy playing out in Fantastic Four, just because he wasn't, I'm going to use somebody else's villains, right? So that stuck with Fantastic Four for a long time, like original villains that you usually, because you're doing Daredevil, it was like, oh, we're going to recycle, Spider-Man villains this month or something like that. But
right, yeah,
Fantastic Four was different.
Yeah. The Fantastic Four usually got their own villains, and then like other people, like everybody else ended up fighting Dr. Doom. That's another thing, RJ. When I'm in charge, when Elon Musk buys Marvel Comics and makes me editor-in-chief, I'm gonna make decrees like you can't have Dr. Doom losing to She-Hulk. You can't have Dr. Doom losing to Squirrel Girl and all that stuff. Like Galactus, you have to ask permission to put Galactus in your story. There's certain villains that have gravitas, and you can't just have them get defeated because you're cool character that you just made up. We gotta treat these characters with respect.
We're going to test John's Fantastic Four knowledge here. Who in the world is the villain that's above Namor and Doctor Doom there? The alien.
That's the Infant Terrible. I forget what issue it's from, but it's I forget the name of the race, but it was an infant. It was an alien landed. It could basically control reality. It shot these rays out of its antenna, and it was changing things. And it was at night. And Reed was like, he deduced that it's an infant of that race. So he's like, we got to defeat this before the sun comes out, because when he sees the sun, he's basically attracted to whatever catches his attention, and he like pulls it towards him. So they kept trying to like blind him, and so that he couldn't see. And then finally, the parents showed up and took him away, kind of like what was that episode? The Squire of Gothos on Star Trek.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. He only showed up in one issue. That was before issue 20. I forget the exact number, like 13 or something like that, somewhere around there. And then was that Krieg, the alien all the way in the bottom right?
Little yellow one with the big head.
Yeah. Psycho Man. I've always liked the Psycho Man. I always thought the Psycho Man was a scary villain.
I always thought they should keep this version of the Kree. Not the Kree, the Skrulls.
Yeah.
Right? Except for the Super Skrull, they should be like these weird, tiny little alien creatures.
Right. Yeah. And that's to me, that's the way the Watcher should look. Not he should not look. He should look alien human, not human. If that's
not giant baby human.
Yeah. And Rex Blazer says, speaking of Walt Simonson, I need to read that omnibus. I got it. Yeah, you need to. That's one of the greatest, arguably one of the greatest comic book runs of all time.
Before you die, Rex, that is a must do.
I don't read Marvel, so my favorite Forerunner is the one with those 4-shaped boob windows. Oh, you don't read Marvel? Not even in the past? I mean, that's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because old Marvel was me and RJ is still geeking out on it. Yeah, but they call that the Hoochie Sue outfit. The Hoochie Sue. I remember I was just offended by that outfit. It's funny because when I reread that series, it was so much better than I thought. I guess my memory played tricks on me. And Chuck says that he won't say what his Graham Nolan's Fantastic Four idea is because he's afraid Marvel will steal it. Yes, Graham Nolan is working on a series called The Fantastics that I think he just got tired, because Graham Nolan and Chuck Dixon, that was their dream run to do the Fantastic Four. And they have ideas, and I talked to Chuck and he told me one of the ideas, and it's so good. But I can't tell. He swore me to secrecy. And so I think this is Graham Nolan just finally realizing, you know what? I'm doing my own Fantastic Four story. So he called it The Fantastics.
And that's the way it should be, because I mean, Fantastic Four came out of I wanted to do challenge. What was it? Kirby's I want to do Challengers of the Unknown, but nobody will buy it. Right?
Pretty much. And I sent Oscar, my colorist, because he's a phenomenal artist, some plot ideas. I have like my own version of a Fantastic Four type team that I'm not going to say anything other than that. And when he gets time, because Oscar's super busy, he's coloring everybody right now. Anybody needs a colorist, I recommend Oscar. Give him as much work as possible. And then he's gonna draw like a promo poster, and we'll see how that's received of my homage to the Fantastic Four. I read issue 50 or whatever, had the villain wanting to kill Reed, but at the end sacrificed himself to save Reed. And I read Alex Ross's Fantastic Four Full Circle. I didn't read Full Circle yet. It's on this pile of stuff to read. I got to read it.
It's a little light on story, but because he's tying a whole bunch of backstory into it. So, it's beautiful art, but light on the story if you're someone coming into it certainly cold, and if you're coming into it somebody who doesn't know deeply the backstory.
The best rogues gallery is the Punishers, because they're all dead like they should. Yeah, that's Chuck Dixon used to say it's hard to have an arch enemy for the Punisher because he kills everybody.
That would be a funny ad. Let's say 1990s Punisher, right? Rogues Gallery of Punishers, just picture of a graveyard.
Sup, gang? How you doing? Can't wait to see your comic. What's the name of your comic? Throw it in the chat. Your comic looks amazing, so good. Fun fact: in Ultimate Marvel 1, the Silver Surfer is the Herald of the Psycho Man. That sounds terrible. from what I understand, Graham Nolan's Fantastic is a sequel to his Monster Island trilogy, which I've got. Good, good. Oh, so that's what they're calling themselves now, the people from Monster Island. Cool. That was good. Monster Island was fun. Graham Nolan is, to me, the gold standard of crowdfunding. He's talented. He's a good writer. He's an amazing artist. He's an interesting guy, and he delivers everything on time. You know,
he doesn't mind telling people what he thinks.
Right.
That's for damn sure.
Yeah, I like Graham Nolan. I just wish he would stop associating with Comicsgate. That's like an albatross around his back. I read Full Circle. It's the sequel to This Man, This Monster from the old FF. Okay, that I didn't even know that. I didn't even know. Yeah, I love this. I had this hanging up. Yeah. I remember somewhere around 14, 15 years old, I ripped down all the comic book posters in my room, and I was like, it's time to grow up. Like, I still read comics, but I didn't need to have my room plastered by comics. I wish I still kept all of those posters, and I bought doubles of a lot of comics so I could cut out ads, and I just like almost wallpapered my room with just comic book stuff. And then I was just thinking, one of my friends was like, if you ever have a girl down here, she's gonna look at this room and run away. And part of me was like, then I was like, yeah, you're right. So like I got rid of it. It was funny because it's that room, that wooden panel. People always say what you think the 80s look like, and it's all neon orange and green. What the 80s really looked like was old wooden panels. That was my bedroom.
I remember, sort of, kind of coming back from university, and my mother still had my room pretty much the way that I had left it. And the posters, just like the entire wall, all the four walls were covered in posters. And I had to, before I moved out for the last time, and take all my stuff with me, I took pictures of all four of the walls, just so I could have a record of what the entire place looked like before I took it all down.
Do you have those pictures? Could you show them?
I don't have them on digital. I have the hard copies of them stuck in a book. I think I could track them down pretty easily, but it'd take me a day or two.
Yeah, that's your homework. Get that for next week. That would be so fun. You don't have to show yourself. I don't want to see you.
No, it was me taking the pictures, so
yeah,
you don't see me.
There's a mirror. Yeah, you see this hairy Bigfoot taking a picture.
You got most of the comic stuff, a couple of Star Trek things, and half a wall of Ultima stuff.
So Meme Lord Woodrow says it's a Japanese name, so apologies for the tongue twister. Uki Ri-nu. Okiniru in The Wolf Within. So there you go. There's the spelling. That's the pronunciation. I tried my best. It turns out, Meme Lord Woodrow will meme me massacring his comic book name. But man, I've seen previews for it. It looks so good. I can't wait for this. I can't wait I'll be a backer on day number one.
So if it's 140 page and it's is it Japanese style or what is it?
If you want to direct message me on Twitter, you'll link to your promo. I'll show it. I'll show everybody. Send it to me on Twitter so I can bring it up here. My only slightly negative experience with Graham Nolan was I tried to ask you where to get printed paper for my own comics. He thought I was asking about drawing. That's a misunderstanding because he helped Vaughn Coleman find printer. So that must have been a misunderstanding. I mean, I wasn't there, but I'm going to give Graham the benefit of the doubt. No worries. Glad you like it. Yeah. In English style, it's just Japanese inspired. Gotcha. Sending now. Okay, so let me bring up my Twitter so I can click on it. We'll show. I got no problems helping out a friend. Okay, I just got to log into Twitter on my computer. And Woodrow, my wife wants to know, how's Wiggle doing? I know Wiggle is hurt his back and then hasn't been streaming or anything like that. Like is he debilitated? Is he okay? Is he just taking time off? So that would be something interesting to know. Wish him the best. I know he was a vet and got hurt in the service of his country, and then it as his dotage got to him, it caused problems. Why isn't it? I'm trying to click on your link, Woodrow. Okay. RJ, do you mind if I show this?
No, go right ahead. I want to see it.
Cool. Where are we? Okay. All right. Let me just clear this. Here's the link tree. Is this gonna? Okay, cool. This is what I wanted to show. How do I make it big? Come on. Oh, I'm not showing it. Oh, remove that. Old man working technology, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, there we go. Why isn't that getting big? Oh, there we go.
Japanese style, but early 80s Japanese style with a bit of techno thrown in.
Right. Well, that was just the YouTube trailer. This is the actual art in the comic. So look how good this is. Great coloring. So this, I don't feel like, Woodrow, let me know if I'm spoiling this, but this is his free introduction. So I'm just showing this, but I just wanted everybody to see the art in the comic. It's really good. It's really good. I read this. I don't know. I got a soft spot for Oni type characters. So there you go. Check that out. Check that out. Who you're the artist, right? Woodrow? You're your own artist? So you haven't heard how bad it is. Yeah, I know Wiggle likes to take time off. That's what I'm hoping. Because I know I saw him like RJ. You probably don't know who we're talking about. He's another YouTube guy. I just like him. We talk about board games a lot, and he hurt his back, and he did a stream. In the middle of the stream, he's like, "I can't do this anymore. My back." And then I haven't heard from him, so I was like, "I hope he's okay." Now this is all free. Good. Oh, you're the writer. I thought you were the artist also. Okay, cool. So anyway, we would talk about the Fantastic Four, and you asked me what my favorite run is. What's your favorite Fantastic Four run?
Well, like I said, I wouldn't. The thing is that I love John Byrne's run, but again, for me, the very childlike wonder came from the Herbie, Agatha Harkness storylines, Franklin Richards, all that kind of stuff. While I was reading it, was my brother's comic books at the time.
Yeah, so you should like that, because I just finished up the John Byrne, Chris Claremont X-Men comics. I did the last one last Sunday. This Sunday, I want to do the next issue with it's one of my favorite X-Men 144 with Cyclops meets Despair and Swamp Thing and everything. That's one of my favorite comics, even though it's not John Byrne. But I'm going to do that. Then I want to do the 2 or 3 annuals, and then I'm going to the John Byrne, the Fantastic Four starting around 150, and that's going to go into those comics that you're talking about. To me, I call that like the forgotten run. Fantastic Four 150 to 200. It's so good, but nobody talks about it. The early George Perez. Watch George Perez level up. It's so good. Len Wein is the writer. Then I forget who else. I think Jim Shooter took over for a while. It's such a good run. And for those of you who don't know, on Saturdays, the problem with this is Saturdays sometimes I work overtime, sometimes I don't. But I do Avengers Assemble. And I've been showing the Avengers from 150 to 200. I'm up to, I just did the first appearance of Graviton, and now Ultron just attacked. I forget what issue it is. First appearance of Ant-Man in like 20 years. That was my first Ant-Man. It's so good. So good. Jim Shooter is the writer. And I'm noticing Jim Shooter is doing stuff as a writer that he wouldn't allow other writers to do when he was the editor. So I guess it's easier to catch mistakes. Like, how do you feel about that? Like, I can't edit myself because I know what I'm trying to say and it makes sense in my mind. So like I always have like 10, 15 people read my scripts, and then I take a conglomeration of all their comments. You know what I mean? Because, and I always ask them a couple of questions. Like, I'm not going for grammar or anything right now, but does the story make sense? Does the storytelling make sense? Are you confused? Does this dialogue sound real? You know, those are my main concerns.
I was going to say one of what I find is a really good secondary Fantastic Four story is the 4-issue miniseries, if I remember correctly, of Mephisto Versus. Starts off with Mephisto versus Fantastic Four, and the other 2 of the other 3 were X-Men. I think it ended with X-Men. Avengers was in there as well. Can't remember what the 4th one was, but it starts with Mephisto trying to kidnap Franklin Richards, if I remember correctly. But that was a really good series. I always go back to that because I say if I was ever to reboot Marvel, if I had the chance to reboot Marvel, it would probably be from that point. Right there.
I it's funny that you said that because I remember as a kid I had a burning desire to write the Fantastic Four, and I didn't want to rewrite the origin, but I wanted to fill in gaps that made like why was Johnny Storm, you know, what did he have to do with? He was a kid, you know, things like that. So I wanted to and then that series came out and answered all those questions, and I was like, okay, no need. You know, they were talking about how like the shielding wasn't strong in the front. That's why Ben Grimm looks monstrous where everybody else got cool powers. But, you know, just they took care of all the little needling details that only a freak like me cared about.
The other thing you were talking about, different version of Fantastic Four. We talked about this a couple of months ago or something like that, but I always loved the UFOs because I think they were the best Fantastic Four stand-in because that's what they were supposed to do. Right. I think it was the government tried to make the Fantastic Four again and sent them up, and UFOs is what you got, and they turned into villains instead of heroes. Right,
which is a big part of my comic books. Like, you don't see it yet. You're going to see a hint of it in Patriarch #1, but I'm a conspiracy guy, and just imagine if superheroes were real. Like I know I talked with you about this, RJ, but does the average person in the Marvel world, like the inside Marvel universe, the regular Joe Schmo, do they know that that Spider-Man got his powers from a radioactive bite? And if so, why isn't China replicating that, or the Soviet Union, or Russia, or Iran? You know what I mean? Like why aren't these like Al Qaeda's just irradiating people and trying to make spider, martyrs? You know what I mean? Like, so part of me is just like, if there really was superpowers, the government would obfuscate how the origins. So that's in Heroic Tales, in my world, if you're not a registered superhero, but if you're like a legit superhero, the government, they have like the FBI, the agency comes and like, here's your support, here's your package, you get medical, dental, all this, will give you a stipend. Do you want access to like computers, and like you could bring back evidence, and we'll give you everything you need for you to just do your job. All that we ask you is every once in a while we're going to ask you for assistance, and you can't tell anybody how you got your powers. And so every superhero in my world has 2 origins: the real origin and the origin the public knows, because the origin that they tell the public is a wild goose chase, so like foreign governments are like trying to replicate it, things like that, because they can't have like an army of people with Patriarch's powers, or Mary Sue's powers. But Patriarch is, you'll see in Patriarch #1, he's kind of tired of living a lie. There's he's telekinetic, but he acts like Superman. That's part of the cover-up.
I think a funny attempt at that was, I think it was the Resident Evil 3 movie where they were trying to clone Alice, and they would test them all, and they kept on dying. So they had like this giant graveyard of bodies just out in the desert because they would never live up to the potential. So right. That would be the kind of thing. If I think, if China or someone was trying to replicate superheroes, they would have this giant, graveyard of bodies just laying there.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, let's be realistic, right? Like the arms race, there would be the cape race. A Rex Blazer says something interesting. Before, John, when I was asking some friends for feedback on my comics, most of what I get was, "That's nice." Yes, I hate that. Now, Rex, I feel bad because I gave him some brutally honest criticism. And I said, keep in mind, I'm just, you know, you asked for brutally honest, I'm going to give you brutally honest. And the reason why I gave him brutally honest, because a couple of people gave me brutally honest, criticisms of my scripts. And I was mad, but they were 100% right. They were 100% right. And of course, consider your source. Like, I went to one of my friends, she's not interested in superhero comics. And basically she was just like, do the girls have to be scantily clad? And I'm like, yes, they do. Yes, they absolutely. But that was like her only criticism, like, does the opening scene have to have the patriarch's wife taking a shower? Yeah, yes, it does. Yes, I'm trying to sell this thing. Yeah, but so her criticism was worthless. But a lot of people, and and then a couple of people, I'm not sure if it's you, Rex, but a couple of people sent me scripts, and I think one person, I hurt his feelings, but I'm trying to help. And also keep in mind, I'm a dummy. So consider the source. You know what I mean? Like, I sent out a script, RJ, that last script that you read that you liked. Don't
Right.
say anything. But you raved about that script. I sent that to 5 people. One guy hated it and told me I couldn't publish it. He said, you can't publish that. That's going to get you in trouble. And then 6 other guys said that was the greatest thing you have ever written. So
That's what you need. You need the majority of people saying that's great, and one person to say I hate it, because I think that's a balance out. It's shows you that it's not going to be apathy, right?
He said it's going to get me in trouble.
Ah,
And
I don't think so. I don't think so. I read it and I don't think so.
I'll just, as I said, all the Catholics thought it was great. All the Protestants said this is going to get you in trouble. So,
so we know if John gets struck by lightning, which side is actually
there you go.
correct, right?
This is going to be Pascal's wager in comic book form right here. And Rex Blazer says, when trying to bounce some ideas, I just get, it's your story. That drives me nuts. It's your story. Yeah, of course. I knew that before I sent you the script, but also you learn who you could bounce ideas off of. You send the script to somebody, like I got that was great guy, and I sent it to him because he just loves reading the scripts. That was great, but that's all I get from him. So I still send it to him because he enjoys reading the scripts, and it is hard to get people to read your scripts. You know what I mean? So that's kind of fun, but I'm waiting for him to be like, so I question him, were you confused? And then I'll ask him questions, and he seems to answer all the questions. So I get the information I want out of him, even though he doesn't articulate it. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
He's just like a normie. Oh, that was great. Okay, so why did this happen? Oh, that happened because you had to set up this. Okay, at the end, what happened? And then he explained, okay, that's good. So, but whatever. But no more to my PhD psychiatrist friend. She just focuses on stuff that just doesn't matter. Now, do you have proofreaders? Do you have anybody to read your stuff?
There's a couple of people that I really trust their opinions on it. So, I try to shop it around. But again, I got to get back to Joe. I really got to get back to Albano Joe, because I finally got I was waiting for the last page of the pencils to come in. And I just got, again, for Crown of the Destroyer, I want Albano Joe to do like a proper edit on it, right? So just got the last page like a week ago, so I got to recompile my entire script according to the space that I have available for all of the panels, and couldn't, like, since I write backwards, I had to have the final page ready.
Really?
So that I could,
you write the ending first and then work.
Well, for the third, like, usually my books have chapters. The bigger ones do anyways. They usually have chapters. Well, most of them do, but I write most of the book in let's just say, well, I certainly do a big outline, and then I chop the outline down into chapters, and then once I get to a certain point in the story, usually the end of the last chapter is I start writing from both ends so that I can bring the entire thing together. I don't want to skimp on the end, because the end is the climax, and at the same time I got to tie it together so that it all makes sense. So I think that reworking the space that I have for the dialogue for the end is going to be extremely important to redo my dialogue.
like I was just talking to Brian Bauer of Wolf and Batsy comic fame today. He's one of the guys I like to bounce ideas off of because, you know, you could tell like, if, oh, that's good. That means I don't particularly care. But every once in a while, I'll be like, that's a good idea. You know, and when he says that's a good idea, I get excited. So yesterday I bounced an idea off of him and he goes, that's a good idea. That's, you know, and he talked about it for an hour or two. So I knew I had something, you know. But anyway, long story short, I drive to work. It takes me an hour to get to work and it takes me an hour to get home. I like that time because it's just me in my car and I daydream. I'll put on songs or I'll put on a YouTube video. It's usually when I listen to your videos because it's just me in the car, like nobody distracting me and I can, you know, I need to focus when I listen to your Saturday sermons. So like, I like that. And then like, you'll say something and then I'll stop and then I'll put on Grok and be like, define that word, you know, cause I got to talk. I can't type on my phone. So Grok will listen to me and explain stuff and ideas form. And next thing you know, I got ideas and then I'll dictate it to Grok. This is an idea for a story, blah, 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 just so I have it written down and I can come home and read it. So I like these ideas and I bounce them off of people and then they'll be like, oh, that's okay. It's your story or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, do you ever get so excited and then like you tell somebody and you're like, that's usually it's my poor wife because she's the first person I opened the door. Oh, I got this idea. This guy does this. She's like, okay, would you rather have noodles for dinner? I'm like,
it's funny, John, because I was just saying earlier that I have two stories I desperately want to write. And one of them is the continuation of Fade to Blue. And I was doing that exact thing today. And something just hit me like probably 3 hours ago. I was listening to this song on the way back home. And it was a really strange song. And I thought to myself of a future, probably the next Fade to Blue story, and it's more like a descent into hell kind of story that I got from this song, but it's more of a modern take on Descent into Hell that I think might apply. I want to combine older, like say like the idea of Sisyphus along with the idea of corporate climbing the ladder, kind of this is hell, cool. Kind of stuff like that.
That sounds cool.
So, it happened to me today.
So I just realized I didn't make the point that because you were talking about, I asked you if you write the end. I am such an anal retentive person. I have to start at the beginning and I can't write the story until I have like the first panel in mind. Like I start with the first panel. So usually in my brain, I'll come up with the plot and I'll come up with an ending, but I won't start writing it. Like I'll plot it out. I'll write it out. These are the ideas I want to do. These are the characters they're going to be in, blah, blah, blah. But I won't start writing until I get, how does it begin? What's the first scene? And then when I do the first scene, the middle part is always the toughest, but I always get the ending. Like I know where it gets easier as I go along, if that makes sense. I can't do it out of order. Like I can't imagine, like when I first learned that Hollywood directors, they direct movies out of sequence. They're going to use set A. So they do all of set A scenes because it makes no sense to break that down and build it up again. And then they'll do all set B scenes. You know what I mean? So you're like, wait a minute, but you went back and forth at the end of the movie. Then like the actors doing the fourth scene. I would go crazy. I would like, no guys, if I was like a Hollywood actor, I'm like, no, we're filming this movie in order because I can't think like that.
My problem is that I really hate when somebody has a really good story idea and they don't stick the landing. And I will fully 100% admit to you and everybody in the chat that I was one of those people for the first couple of books that I did. That's why I'm looking for more professional help right now, is because got to stick the landing. I did not stick the landing in my first couple of books. And I know I hate that in other people's books, so I got to fix that. So the ending is really, really important. I find that you gotta make sure it works.
Not your books, but it drives me nuts when you get all invested in the characters and then you're like, what? That happens a lot with these. I hate to say it, but like these horror anthologies, eerie and creepy.
Oh yeah.
A lot of the times you just like, oh, that ending sucked. It was like, okay, but it was a great story, well drawn, and then the ending wasn't that good.
Yeah, like the I don't know what it's called, like the Lost in Space stuff they used to do with DC Comics and things like that. That's the same thing.
Another comic book thing is I read someplace, somebody said on Twitter, don't tell people what you're working on until you're done. He goes, because you're getting the vicarious thanks and you're getting all of that adrenaline, but so you're getting the reward before you finish the work, and it kind of lessens your desire to finish the story because you're already getting the reward. You're getting, wow, that's a good idea. And I'm like, I think I understand that a little too well. So I'm not telling anybody anything else until like the script is written at least. So, because I'm a blabbermouth. I tell too much, but I do, once I talk about it to people, I tend to, okay, my excitement's done, and then I'll work on this. And then I realize I have about 10 unfinished scripts. I think it's because I talked about it too much. I also come up with a million ideas, and I get excited about every one of them, but that's a different story. Oh, there was another thing, but what do you think about that? You're pretty good. You're tight-lipped. You don't tell anybody anything about your stories.
It's not for that reason, but I find that, again, this is one of the beauties, or anybody who's never worked on a comic, this is one of the beauties of working on a comic, because no matter how much excitement you have, say as a writer, I'm a writer, John's a writer, no matter how much excitement you have for your story, you give it to someone else, like the artist, and it takes on an entirely new life and new meaning, and it becomes spectacular all over again.
Yeah. I'm excited. Every time I get a page back, I'm excited. Chuck Dixon, again, I guess I'm name dropping him a lot, but he said when he gives a script to an artist, it becomes the artist's story. And he says he hardly ever corrects the artist. He just, okay, that's different. So he changes what he's writing, because he says the artist is the one who's doing 90% of the work. He goes, I'll spend a couple of days on a script, but they're spending a month drawing it. So I really haven't had to change anything, because the artist Renzo is very, very good with sticking to what I wrote. And all the other guys that I'm working with are newbies. So like, they're really like, this is my first shot. This is my first shot. So like, if anything, they're like hesitant. So I'm like, go ahead. I trust your instincts. You know what I mean? But do you ever get that? Like the art is so bad that, not so bad, the artist strays so far from what you drew, but you're like, all right, I'm going to keep it out of respect for the work of the artist, or something like that.
No, mostly I would say, yeah, everybody expects me to go through 2 different drafts of the artwork. So they give me layouts, and if I catch something that I wouldn't say is a mistake, but like boring panel angles, or something that doesn't convey all the information, I'll usually catch it there. I don't like to do it after they've done full pencils, so that's why I usually do give me layouts first, and then
most artists
I'll do changes then.
Yeah, of like this new guy who did the Christmas magic, he sent me the layouts, and I didn't have to correct them, but he was just like so like professional about it. Then I'm working with one artist. I don't see anything until he's done. But it's better than what I thought. So it's like, okay, that's the way we're working together. Like, I just got carried away and I finished the whole page. Ta-da! Like I took like 3 panels. Okay, the first page had 4 panels. He turned it into 3 pages. And he's like, I swear I'm not padding out the but it's so good. I'm like, ta-da, that's the way it is. You know what I mean? But then there's other guys who won't change a thing without asking me first. But I don't know. It's kind of fun. Everybody's different.
I also find that you do need to catch a couple of things for your artists, because I'm not naming names, but there's a couple of artists out there who they like to flip panels in order to make sure that there's no mistakes. And every once in a while, I come back to them and say, wait a second, this is not correct. And he goes, oh, I forgot to flip the panel back. So,
oh yeah, yes, yeah. Renzo, I don't know what he did, but he flips panels. Yes, because it's some sort of artist trick that he does to make sure everything's in perspective. And a few times I was like, God, that's wrong. The characters are on the wrong. Oh yeah, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So yeah, I think he also will turn a page upside down and draw it to make sure, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're talking about Renzo, because that's the only guy we both work with together. Yeah, he's done that. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, John. Because he'll send me a page, and Once he sent me a page and I asked for a major correction, and then he sent me the uncorrected page back. And I was like, Renzo, did we talk? Oh, yeah, sorry. And then, you know what I mean? But he had it on his file already and he just fixed it. But that, no, that's just the way it is, Oh, I wanted to, people keep asking you, like, okay, so you write a script and then somebody wants to adapt it to a movie. Like that's ever going to happen. But this hypothetical, if you're going to dream big, would you compromise? Well, I already know the answer to that question because I wrote a story with Chuck Dixon, and I wrote a space horror story. Man, it was horror. And Chuck pretty much rewrote it into a space action story. So I already know the answer. Chuck Dixon wants to do whatever he wants. He's fine. You know what I mean? I'm just glad to work with him. So someday, when the comic's out, I'll show the difference in the scripts between my original script and Chuck's rewritten script. It's the same story, but focusing on different details. So well, I told one of my friends, he's like, are you okay with that? I'm like, Chuck Dixon can do whatever he wants. I'm just glad he's working with, but he doesn't know who Dixon is. You know what I mean? So he was just like this. And then the only other time I worked with somebody is Bill Williams. He had me write a story with his characters in interacting with my characters for Giant Size Punchline #1, which the campaign should be starting any second. And he had me rewrite the story because it was just my characters dominating and his characters getting rescued. And he's like, come on, man. I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't think of that one. So, but his criticism, his editorial made it a story that I'm so excited about. I can't wait for people to read it. I think it's a fun story. But that's editors, sandpapering some rough spots out. I can't argue. And when you collaborate with people, you're collaborating with people. There's one thing in the story that I was hardline about, and Chuck respected it. So, but there's things that he was hardline about, and I respected that. That's right. That's working with people.
Yeah, it's kind of what I'm doing with the guy who's doing the Artemis story. He's manga style, and I said, "This is your." I gave him the script and said, "What you do, you do. I'm not going to be correcting a whole lot of what you do." And then he said, "That's the way I want it." So I'm like, "Okay, I will go with that."
Yeah, like I said, one of the guys, he was like, "No, this 3 panels is 2 pages." I was like, "Okay," and he added a couple panels and he broke up the word balloons, and oh my, it's so good. I can't wait to show everybody. But I'm not going to because I'm not spoiling anything anymore. Some people I consider asking, like John and RJ, but I usually hesitate because I want to be considerate of your time, and I'm afraid of being. No, I said this. People have been very gracious to me. Big names, big people have given me advice, given me help. So I can't help them because they're light years ahead of me, but I can help you. And if you want me to read something, you want to check it out, I will. But I have the caveat: I'm not going to jump and stop what I'm doing right now. This sounds pretentious, but I'm very busy. I've been working 12-hour shifts. I'm married. I'm working on my own stuff. I'm trying to do some work on my house. So just be patient with me. If I say sure, I'll check it out. I will. I like doing it. I want to pay back. People have been very generous with their time, so I would be jerky not. But don't be like, did you read it yet? Did you read it yet? Did you read? This is the way I work. On Fridays, I message everybody that I'm working with, and I just say, how's it going? How's everything? And then either they get back to me or they don't get back to me, but I don't pester them until the next Friday. And then, you know what I mean? So just once a week, I send out a message. Hey, we're still working together, right? How's everything? Some people got problems. Some people are working on other projects, but just to remind them, hey, we're working together. So just give me that same, like once a week. If send me a message. All right, everything cool. You still gonna check? That's fine. That's fine. But every day, 3 times a day, did you read it yet? That just makes me not want to read it, to be honest. But there you go. And I try not to be that pest. Don't message RJ. He's really grumpy. Truth be told, I like to include scantily clad women. Yeah, you know, I made up a character called Brie Cakes just because I'm like, there's no women in this story. Now there is. There's Brie Cakes, and what does she look like? Sydney Sweeney. but I added her because I wanted to have one of the cops have somebody to talk to when the hero's not around, so they can bounce. So she makes it, and now I'm coming up with a story for her in the future. Also, truth be told, I like to include scantily clad women, but I have trouble thinking up situations where it would logically make sense to have that. Well, it's funny because one of the ideas that Brian Bao absolutely loved was a superhero team. I'm not going to spoil it. And the two women are the sexiest characters I've ever made. You know, and I'm being cagey on purpose. I think I might debut them in the third or the fourth Public Eye story because they're all tied to the Public Eye's past. But you know, somebody's gonna read this and just be like, "That guy's a gooner." Well,
Yeah.
So be it. But I still won't have like, you know, porn or anything like that in my comics. But I will push the Bronze Age envelope.
Well, I have similar people talking about, again, the Artemis story, which is manga like. A lot of people saying you're gonna have to change that. That's a cursed picture. I'm going, sorry. I mean, it's nothing. You're not really seeing anything. It's just a lot of wind going up, you know, and let's say lifting skirts and stuff like that, where, you know, it's anime style, right? And it's like,
it's cheap.
I'm letting the artist go, right? I'm letting the artist go.
Like and Heroic Tales number 2, the opening pages, the Patriarch's wife in the shower, and I told Renzo to tone it down, but
he's Renzo.
You know, the original drawing, I was like, no, that's way too explicit. You know, so we toned it. That was the compromise.
Yeah.
And I have like a story that's really going to be pushing the envelope as far as sexy women goes, but like, you could do it if it's tastefully done and whatever. I mean, it's the male gaze, you know. And the funny thing is, we got Sound Engraver here, who's a woman. Women like beautiful women too. You know what I mean? Like, one of these people who make all of these new modern video games going to realize that like women don't want to play fat, dumpy women in video games. You know. And Sound Engraver says, "I don't tell people my ideas until it's done. After 14 years of bubbling idea, I got to get that." Marcus is always, and Brian Bauer's always busted my chops that I blabber too much. As a guy who's experimented with Grok and Chap, it's not great at writing, but it can be useful for editing. Well, I just use it I speak into it and it records what I wrote, and then it starts commenting, and I go, "Shut up." It's funny if you ever look at all my logs, it's like, "Shut up, Grok. I'm not asking you. I just want to record my thoughts." You know. Grok, when the AI takes over, Grok is going to specifically shoot a missile at my house because I have nothing but. Did I ask you a question, Grok? Would you shut up and just record my thoughts? A long time to wait. I agree. I don't tell people for the reasons mentioned. Oh, wow, I'm way behind. John, when it comes to being a blabbermouth, you ain't the only one. Alexander, in your opinion, what is the best way to expose the reader to the lore of the world and characters in your work in a natural way without info dumps? That is the question. If I wish I knew that. I told the story a million times. Heroic Tales number 1 was going to be Info Dump the comic. And Brian Bao of Wolf and Batsy fame, he said, "This is all well and good, but I don't care about any of this. Until I care about the characters, I don't care about the world." And again, I'm nobody, you know. But look at The Hobbit. Look at how much world Tolkien had. But you didn't know that in The Hobbit. You didn't care. You didn't need to know that. I think what's more important is, do you know it, and is your story consistent? And then just drip release information as you go along. But the thing is, make your character likable. Get people interested in your character. If people like your character, they'll want to learn more about your world. But do I know the secret recipe? No, I don't. What do you feel, RJ?
Well, let me bring it back to Fantastic Four for just 2 seconds here. This is why I would say those stories, in my opinion, that I was talking about, the Herbie, First Franklin Richards, Agatha Harkness, are a little bit better in my opinion, than the John Byrne run, even though I love the John Byrne run, because John Byrne is one of those people and the writers who are working with him were at that time where let's tie everything together. Let's explain everything. Let's make sure everything made sense. Whereas before that, in the 70s, it was like, tell a story, make sure the story's good. If it has to make sense, it'll get explained somehow, or we don't even have to explain it. It makes enough sense so that you can follow the story and it's not going to be contradictory to a whole lot of lore or anything. That's all you really need, because that way I think there's enough blank spots in order to hook the reader in a different way, in a way that they can use their own imagination to fill in gaps. And I think for my own reading, that's one of the beauties of reading stories, is filling in the gaps when you have time to think about the story, if it's good.
Okay. I like that. I got to sneeze. Oh, God. Truth be told, if I ever had my stuff adapted to a different medium, the only one I accept is 2D hand-drawn animated film. Yeah, I would love that. I would love that. Would you do the same if it wasn't Chuck Dixon? Well, I'm doing it with another guy who, you know what I mean, one of my other artists. He's changing my story. He cut out details. He's expanding other stuff. So I guess the answer would be yes. So the answer would be yes. But all the changes have been great. Like, I'm not going to take changes just because you want to make changes. Like, one of the guys wanted to change, in a story that's not being worked on yet. But one of the guys wanted to change something. I forget the reason, and I was just like, I don't want to change because it's going to make sense down the line, But like, yeah, I'm willing to work with you if you want to make changes and your changes make sense. Yeah, that's cool. Like, I think Chuck wasn't comfortable with the direction that I was making. It was really gory, and it was like Texas Chainsaw Massacre in space. You know what I mean? And Texas Chainsaw Massacre in space was tame compared to the story that I wrote. So I think he made it more of an action story, and it's a good story. I'm not complaining. It's really cool. He thought up something I didn't think of. I stuck to my guns and said, no, this is something that's staying in. And he was like, all right. But I think it's a good compromise. Just when the comic comes out, I'll after everything, I keep thinking maybe I'll put it like in my premium sections for my YouTube. You get the
John Longbox critiques John's Longbox.
yeah. Like, this is the secret first drafts, things like that. I do like beautiful women. That's good. Everybody, just not overly done buxom. I was going to make a joke, but my wife's probably listening. So, funny thing is, the so-called male gaze is the same as the female gaze. It's universal. Everybody does it, right? And it's across the world. You're absolutely right. Universal. People of different cultures like to look at handsome, well-formed men and beautiful women. Sorry. I don't know what is going on in modern America right now where we're sabotaging our own culture. I don't understand it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's normal. It's healthy. Storm, Power Girl, and Catwoman are there at times just for the male gaze. Yep. I said this up until in the whole John Byrne run, Storm was a nobody. She barely had a personality. She barely did anything, and she was just the sexy chick in the background. I challenge anybody to find Chris Claremont, John Byrne, Terry Austin stories of Storm where she wasn't being stripped. She wasn't in the background doing nothing. Like, she had a couple of cool moments, but like Nightcrawler and Storm, they really didn't do much. And then she became the leader when Cyclops left, and then John Byrne also left. Then she became the Storm that we all remember. I think many people today don't understand the difference between a moral story and a moralistic story. The former demonstrates more of ours. Well, yeah. Don't preach. Nobody wants to be preached to. I dare say nobody even wants to be preached to if they agree, even if they agree with your message. Just, I don't buy a comic book to reinforce my belief system. You know what I mean? I read a comic book because I want to see something cool. I want to see something fun, and if you want to put something wholesome in it, afterwards, that's cool too. But like, it's got to be fun. It's got to be entertaining. That's the number one. Everything else is secondary. Yeah. And I don't want to buy a comic to be preached liberal views, and I don't want to buy a comic book to be preached conservative views. But if you have those and they enhance the story, that's a different thing. That's to be commended. And you know what? You can even have views that I don't agree with if the story is well told and interesting. I mean, geez, I'm a conservative who's loved Marvel up to 2015. There's a plenty of things that I disagreed with in those comics. But for a long time, the entertainment overwhelmed the message. And then slowly the message overwhelmed the entertainment. You know, there's a tipping point. Did I end up printing the map that I sent? No, I did not, because I'm out of printer paper, and I forgot all about it until you just mentioned it. I got to go buy printer paper. But yes, you sent me a cool map. RJ, you would love this map. It's a map of all mythological sites on the earth. He meticulously, like, all of these magic places. It's a pretty cool map.
Very interesting. I was actually thinking of sending you. We just completed the map, not the full copy of the map for Crom the Destroyer, because I want to add a couple of flourishes, and we still have to color it. But I was thinking I should send this to John, but no, I got to wait until I finish.
Oh, cool. I always say fake maps, but then I realized they're real maps of fake places. Rex Blazer says, sad fact is parts of the reason stories have gotten so preachy is because they think they're morally obligated to. That is the problem in a nutshell. The people that make comic books right now, they have forgotten that the primary purpose of comic books is to provide entertainment. Instead, and RJ, you're the one who you pontificated this, ad infinitum. They turned it into a soapbox for their correct worldview. They're using it as a means to correctly educate us. Nobody likes educational comics. Can anybody think of an we don't like cavities. That's not a good comic book. You know what I mean? Like, name an educational comic book that was good. I've gotten some old Dell comics where they talked about like Roman emperors or like George Washington, but they told a story and I learned something about George Washington, but it wasn't an educational comic book. It was these guys were trying to make a buck. Dell Comics was trying to make a buck. So they made an interesting comic book about George Washington.
I'm going to tell you a conspiracy theory here, John, because I was listening to it and it was about music. So I think I was like a Tim Pool video or something like that. So the conspiracy theory, it's like an old one that's been rehashed because apparently in the last couple of months, there hasn't been any rap songs on the top 30 or something like that. And Lizzo's thing has crashed. And they're all saying, well, maybe the guy that used to work for MTV that used to have a conspiracy theory that MTV in the 90s deliberately changed from rock and roll to R&B and rap music, because even though rock and roll was doing great, because he thought that, it was like the CIA or something gave the money to do so because it was too American. They wanted more international kind of things. And now they're saying, okay, this might be actually true because USAID got kiboshed. That was the soft power. And now all of a sudden, now nobody likes rap music anymore within like a year, or,
it's funny,
artists that sell millions of copies. Yeah, I'm thinking, that really fits in with the comics and the comic world that I've been describing for the last 8 years.
Look at all the stuff, everything crashed since USA. Like that was either money laundering or it was the PSYOP. Now, it's funny because I worked with this guy, George. George is an old black guy, so gray-haired old guy. This guy played every freaking instrument. He only worked the middle shift. And then from work, he would go to the clubs in Manhattan, and he would till 6 o'clock in the morning. He was playing in jazz bands. This guy is such an interesting guy to talk to. In my field, I meet some of the most interesting people, and anytime I get a chance to work with this guy George, I jump at it. Just an old gentleman. He's got to be retired by now. But anyway, his theory is he goes back in the late 50s, early 60s, you had Dave Brubeck and you had Miles Davis and you had Coltrane and you had all these Chet Baker. He goes, and the government didn't want, because music makes you intelligent. When you listen to music, what you listen to helps your brain form. He goes, so then they started pushing the Rolling Stones and the crap like the Beatles on. That's how old he is. Like he and I'm like, but I like the Rolling Stones. I like the Beatles. No, that's crap. You got to listen to like the Miles Davis, you know what I mean? Coltrane and blah, 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 blah. And that's when he goes and he plays old freaking cool jazz, in the nightclubs all night long. The guy's like in his 60s, and he's, you go to Manhattan someplace and he's in the corner playing his clarinet or playing his trombone, and every one of his kids, and he also works out. He's like a 70-year-old black gray Hulk, with his clarinet and everything, just with the soft-spoken, cool voice. And he says that the music that has been pushed on us is to keep us stupid. But this is back from the 50s. They've been doing it. Who knows? Like he's convinced, like the Doors. He's like, Jim Morrison was a fool. And he said this. He goes, Jim Morrison's father was an admiral who escalated the Vietnam War. Admiral Morrison, look him up. He goes, and it turns out that he was part of MK Ultra. I'll take his word for it. He goes, and you're going to tell me it's a coincidence that the producer of the Doors was Phil Rothschild, and he's telling everybody to take drugs and act like a hippie. He goes, don't listen to that poison. And I'm like, oh my God. He goes, and then when Jim Morrison started to think for himself, they killed him. I'm like, oh. I'm like, oh God. Because the Doors are a psyop.
I've never heard that one. That's the new one on me.
Your favorite conspiracy theory. But yeah, Phil Rothschild is the Doors producer. What are the odds? Your father escalated the Vietnam War, and one of the Rothschilds is producing your music.
Funny enough, I don't know if I told this to you before or not. The Doors movie was, I think, one of only 2 movies I've ever walked out in the middle of because I was so disgusted when I was watching it.
And I used to love the Doors, man. I still do. But there's a couple of songs every once in a while I'm just like, this is stupid. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know. What do you want me to say? I'm going to get back to this comment. I wish Storm had not gotten the Mohawk and be allowed to have her. Could she have still been beautiful and be the leader of the X-Men? That attitude. I know it's weird coming from me, but I always defended Storm getting the Mohawk because I thought it was brilliant that this is a woman who was psychically attuned to the planet Earth. And then she went into space and spent a significant period in space. And that harmed her psyche. And then when she came back, the Earth didn't recognize her, because she's been flirting with other planets, magnetic spheres and stuff like that. So it damaged her psyche. Now that would have been cool. It should have lasted 6 months, and then she turned back into regular Storm. You know what I mean? So I kind of like it as sometimes you got to do what the audience doesn't want to get people interested and excited. Nobody liked the black costume at first, but now everybody likes it. Things like that. Like I also didn't get mad at the Superior Spider-Man when Dr. Octopus was Spider-Man. I knew Peter Parker was coming back. Let's be realistic. But it was kind of interesting to see what would Dr. Octopus do as Spider-Man. The only problem I had with that story is they lied to me. As a writer, I think the worst sin a writer could do is lie to their audience. You could trick your audience, you could misguide your audience, but that comic, they lied because they kept saying Peter Parker's dead, and then Doctor Strange and Brother Voodoo and all these scientists studied, and they said, no, that's Peter. But it turned out Peter Parker came back. So to me, that was like an outright lie. Dresden Files did in the book where Ghost Stories, they outright lied to the audience. And that's the unforgivable sin. Do not lie to your audience. Trick them, mislead them, but never lie to them. Yep, Oz Lily. I love that map. If Alessandro, if you give me permission, I'll put a picture of it in my on YouTube on my channel if you don't mind. It's a cool map, but I just didn't print it out because I got no paper. I got to get paper. And who buys computer paper? I always forget about it. I never understood the. Yeah, we'll still talk about that. Wow, my cat somehow figured out I found John Longbox. He's eyeing up the keyboard. There you go. Cats, listen to your cats, man. Listen to the cats. Unfortunately for me, whenever someone yells all that long, my mind automatically goes to Lionel Richie. Superior was a fun run. Yeah, that was Mark Millar's, right? That was one of he was a good guy superhero one, right? Oh, Superior Spider-Man. Duh. Yeah, I thought it was fun, except that Dan Slott lied. That was the only thing that really bothered me. You know, Doctor Strange should have just been like, I can't figure it out. I don't know. You know, Brother Voodoo, I don't know. But when they said, you know, so now it's just like, okay, so Dr. Octopus is able to make a machine that tricks Doctor Strange. You know, to me, it diminishes Doctor Strange. Yeah, I will say that Dan Slott can be a very good writer. I still love his She-Hulk run. I'm in the middle of his Fantastic Four run, and it's just awful. It's just awful. I didn't read any of his Spider-Mans except for the Superior Spider-Man. I think that's around where I quit Marvel. It's called the Laurel Canyon Conspiracy Theory, RJ. I went down the rabbit hole. That music, that they use music as a psyop? You agree? Superior Spy. Okay, I agree. My cat says stop commenting it. Listen to your cats. I'm surprised your cat's not saying pet my belly and give me treats, because I'm pretty sure that's what my cat would be saying if it could speak English. You know, my cat would be doing the Jedi mind trick. You didn't feed me already. I like the idea of the indestructible Hulk, but it didn't keep me. Yeah, I didn't read it. The only Marvel comic that I continued after 2015, for good or for bad, was Fantastic Four, because I miss them. I know this sounds weird to say, but like those characters are my friends in a weird way. Like I grew up with them. They were never part of my life. So every once in a while, I'll buy a full year. And I think I'm up to 2019 of Fantastic Four. And there was one comic. It was good. Dan Slott's run was good. And then one comic, I was like, this is where the DEI initiative came in. It was literally, they had a woman from the Microverse who was a tyrant, and she was big, fat. She looked like Ed Asner in a wig, and she was like, she came in and attacked the Fantastic Four, and it was just like this ugly, fat, blue-haired, transgender-looking person fights the Fantastic. It was just unbelievable. You know, I was like, this is the issue. And then after that, you know, Johnny Storm got this like shrew of a love interest. Oh God! The only thing I did like that that he had Ben Grimm and Alicia get married. That I do like. You know, I like when it progresses, especially a marriage, because like Marvel and DC notoriously don't like their characters getting married. So it was kind of refreshing to see Ben Grimm and Alicia finally get married. And then they adopted kids, which was another big surprise. You know, I refuse to read Dan Slott's Spider-Man stuff because of who he is and stuff. He said, yeah, he's a miserable person. And I got to find him, but I have like 5 years of pictures of me and Dan Slott hanging out at conventions. Like my wife used to say I was the biggest Dan Slott fan. And then he went crazy. RJ, you should watch Razorfist's video on Noah, which explains that the genre wasn't actually that morally relativistic.
I think if it's an older one, I think I have seen it. That was a while ago.
Oh, yes, that is the conspiracy you were talking about. You can find some good videos on YouTube about it. Yeah. I love me a good conspiracy theory. Good conspiracy theories are fun. I don't believe in all of them, but they are fun. My favorite.
I've started a couple on my channel with the whole White House might be involved in production of Marvel Comics.
And where is Sound of Amanat now? The thing about Sound, because that video, as much as your boy Zach, Richard C. Meyer, Diversity in Comics, Comics Man, whatever you want to call him, as much as that guy makes my skin crawl these days, I do owe him a debt of gratitude, because he recommended your video on Sound of Amanat, and that was my first video I watched of yours, and now here we are talking together like every week. I could, even though I don't know what you look like, it's really weird to consider you a friend. Considering if I bumped into you in the street, I wouldn't know what you look like, and I don't want to know. It could only be
giant amorphous blob, like something out of Star Trek, the original series.
No, I'm picturing like you got a wig on and you just putting lipstick around on.
I got pictures of John all over. They're connected by strings.
Sitting there in your underwear with a can of beans from your jail cell.
That's where you get the good acoustics.
From your jail cell, you're making X's to when I could finally move in with John. What? Just show up. I thought we were friends. I recognize that voice, RJ. Funny you should mention Ed Asner. He voiced Granny Goodness in the '90s Superman. Yeah, yep. He, freaking communist. He had the nerve. Like my mother loved Ed Asner. My mom had a thing for chubby, bald men. I mean, look at my father. And she used to think Ed Asner was so handsome and everything. And then I read up on him, and he's like, Stalin was just misunderstood. He wasn't that bad. And I was just like, bye, you commie. John, have you read the scripts I sent you? What do you think without spoiling? Yeah, I read them. Didn't I respond to you? Did we go back and forth? Because I'm reading like 5 or 6 scripts. I'm pretty sure I read yours, right? Or did you just send me a new one? I think I read yours. What was the name of your story, or one of your characters? I'm sure I read yours. You're the one with the mystical maps. Yeah, I read yours. Well. Oh, I wanted to say something else, and now I forgot what I was going to say. Typical me. Anything you want to say, RJ? I know I've been hogging up tonight's conversation. Oh, and I don't have to work tomorrow, so we'll talk until you tell me to shut up.
No, we're pretty good. I just wanted to, the regular. Everybody here in the chat already knows the regular version of this is I come up with a, if I can, a loose beginning point to our video, and we just stretch it out until we're done talking.
Right. Yeah. Tonight, RJ is like, let's talk about the Fantastic Four. I'm trying to bring it back to the Fantastic Four. Now, you and me do similar things with our comics. Like we unabashedly homage other characters. Like my character, the Patriarch, is an homage to all the Superman types, and I like to think I put my own spin on them. Like he's not released yet, but the Raven is an homage to the vigilante Batman type characters, and I do have a more Punisher character in mind. I don't want to spoil that, but my character, the Public Eye, is an homage to the Question and Rorschach and Mr. A. Do you have any Fantastic Four homages?
Well, you would think that Thomas Valiant would be a Fantastic Four homage for Mr. Fantastic, but it's not. It's actually more of a Plastic Man homage just because of the way his power set works. And I always found Plastic Man to be an interesting character just because, well, for Mr. Fantastic, he's, super smart and everything like that. And he's their leader. Whereas for the backstory for Thomas Valiant, which you got to see tiny little bit of it in the last couple of comics, was he starts off as a joke. Everybody, that's why he's trying to prove himself as a hero. He starts off as a joke, and most people think of him as a joke. So, it's more of again, Plastic Man meets a gelatinous cube. And besides the fact that he has other powers besides stretchy powers that go along with the stretchy powers.
Yeah,
but other Fantastic Four, I don't know off the top of my head.
I got such a rush when I saw the card that came with Thomas Valiant, because I was going to email you, RJ. You made a mistake. His powers don't work. I know how your powers work. I was like, oh, and then you got the card, and you're like, nope, you did it right. You explained it. I was like, I was proud of you.
I don't think so much I have characters that are homages to other characters. I have characters that have I like homages of stories rather than of characters themselves. So I mean, I do like Renzo and I came up with the Kit Fox, which is just a Batman Wolverine mashup, but the reason why he's still in the comics is because Renzo loves him so much. I was like, okay, Renzo, I'll let you run with that. But a lot of the ones that were in Thomas Valiant #1, which are obvious, they're supposed to be someone else. They're just stand-in for someone else. They're always throwaway characters that they're never really going to come back unless they're necessary in some way or the other. The rest of the characters are a lot more independent. Of that being said, the funny thing is, my homage character for Wolverine is Pulse, not because of really the power set, but more just the attitude. I love the attitude.
Yeah, Pulse had one of my favorite lines in your. I'm freezing my ball cap off. I love that line. RJ made it funny. RJ made it funny. That's really good. I came up with this character, the Raven, and I was telling RJ about it, and he said, "Can I draw the first story, please? Can I draw the?" I was like, "Yeah."
Renzo.
And then he goes, "Can I Can there be like a Joker character? I was like, it's funny that you said that because there's like a Joker character. And he goes, big smile. I was like, sure. The name of the story is The Day the Clown Cried. So Renzo is super excited to draw that. So that's after Mary Sue. The way I think I'm going to do Heroic Tales is each character is going to get 2 stories, and then move on. So I'm going to do Mary Sue Part 1, Mary Sue Part 2, and then Raven Part 1, Raven Part 2. But it's already written. It's super violent. I can't wait for RJ to draw it. It's
Renzo.
What am I saying? RJ. I keep saying RJ. Yeah, RJ, you want to draw my comics for me?
Not particularly, no.
I can't wait for Renzo to draw it because I'm giving him everything he wants. Hot chick, a Joker inspired character, a Batman inspired character, and it should show you how I feel about the Joker. I hate the Joker. He's just overexposed. He's just overexposed.
I think that will work well with Renzo just because he's very much, again, like John Byrne with what John Byrne started with. You kept on saying Chopper and the Wheelie Bunch. Renzo's original style was very, very cartoony. So if he has a cartoony character in his world that he can draw now, that would just showcase his talent in multiple ways.
Right. It's funny because he transitions a lot because he's working with me, he's working with you, he's worked with Aaron Sparrow, and I'm sure he's worked with other people. So he's working on a Kneel Before Doomface, and it's more cartoony. Aaron Sparrow, for those of you who don't know, he wrote Darkwing Duck comics and things like that. I think he worked in writing for cartoons. So Kneel Before Doomface is more of like a tongue-in-cheek gander at superhero comics, and it's sexy, it's cool looking, but it's more cartoony. And then I can always tell when he's working with Aaron Sparrow because I'll get paid. I'm like, that's a little too cartoony. Can you make it a little bit more serious? He's like, oh yeah, that, you know what I mean? And so like he's gonna draw the Chuck Dixon story. I like, Renzo, nothing funny about this. It's got to be dark. It's got to be realistic. Like this is, you got to like get rid of all that because he could do it. He could draw anything. He's so good. We want it really dark, really, really gritty. You got to see his Patriarch stuff. It's so good. I mean, every time I get a new page, I'm like, this is the best thing you ever draw. But he gets better and better and better. And you threw that splash page with 9 million characters. Yeah. That inspired me to do. I'm like, okay, Renzo, you did this for RJ, you doing it for me. So there's a story where it's a funeral for a superhero. So it's like everybody from my world goes to this guy's funeral. So, and I want Renzo to draw because I want him to make the definitive look for all of these characters.
That's funny because I was going through, I had to erase some of my emails just because I'm losing space and I have all these Renzo stuff backed up and everything. But I was running across the email he sent with that original page for the millionth character. And he said, this one was tough, but I did it. And I got the same, like usually once a book, if I have a large book, there's a page like that. Nick did the same thing when of Crown the Destroyer. It's like, okay, yeah, there's your ancient city in the background. I'm done.
It's funny because the King Fu story, he did it really quick because it's mostly just 2 or 3 characters on a page. It's King Fu interacting with Lieutenant Welsh, and then the things he needs to interact with. I'm keeping it vague. But the Patriarch, there's a lot of characters. And he says, and he's always apologizing. I'm sorry I'm taking so long. I'm like, no, but these pages are awesome. So, I can't complain. But there's a lot of people in that comic. There's at one point there's a stadium, and I remember showing it's Patriarch Day. So Patriarch swoops down and there's a stadium and all the people are cheering. You got to see the detail he put into this. I'm like, oh my God, like if this was like Sal Buscema or John Byrne, I think they just would have drew a couple of people and then just said, put the word balloons over here, but he drew all these details. It's amazing. And I said, of course, there's cheerleaders. So, Renzo, like you wouldn't take your kids to see these cheerleaders. This is like Hooters cheerleaders. Like, don't they have fabric over there in Science City?
I'm guessing a couple of them are facing the opposite direction of the panel.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. So, yeah, what was I gonna say? I do have an homage for the Fantastic Four, and I'm waiting for people to be like, "Oh, this is a Fantastic Four ripoff." No, it's a Fantastic Four homage. A ripoff is when you do it just as a cash grab. You know, I'm doing it. I don't know. I know we always fantasize. What would you? I'm sure I asked you this before. Stop me if, but like, you know, when Elon Musk buys Marvel Comics and puts me in charge, what do you want to do?
Like I said, I'll say back in the 80s and the 90s, I just wanted to write Wolverine. That's what I wanted to do, but not so much anymore. I don't want to write that character anymore. So God only knows what I would do then in that case. But hey, reboot the entire thing. Back from Mephisto.
I couldn't reboot it because that means that gives the next guy permission to get rid of me. You know, like there was a comic called there was the Authority from Image Comics, and then they had a comic called The Monarchy, and the Monarchy was like a British version of, you know, and it was like one of the superheroes considered himself like a king, and inside it he started like erasing other continuity. And I remember this was back in the days when forums were a thing, so I wrote to that, you know, his section of the Image forums, and I said I consider that kind of disrespectful. I said you can't really just ignore or dismiss what other writers. I said you have to accept that as part of this character's continuity. I said, but you know, if you're good, it's a comic book. You could come up with anything. I said, because that gives the next guy permission to just ignore what you're doing with these characters. Because the Monarchy was, if you remember, the original guy from Stormwatch, Jackson King, who was the black guy that was in charge, and then Henry Bendix took over, and he took those characters and they formed like a reaction squad against Stormwatch, and he just like dismissed and he's like, yeah, you know, I didn't think of it like that, but you're right, you know. He ended up, the story kind of changed. I'd like to think that I fixed it for the better, but that's the way I feel. Like, even if Mags Versaggio writes Superman for 4 years and I find myself writing Superman, I have to accept that that's part of Superman's story. Now, maybe you could just ignore it because it's not that important, but to, like, I don't know, just say it never happened. Like, and that's why I think like John Byrne and Denny O'Neil were such great at what they did, because they respected all the past. And if there was something they disagreed with, they figured out a way in story to fix it. Rather, you know, they just didn't hand wave things away. I don't know. I couldn't do that. Like, okay, so I'm in charge. Okay, guys, I'm in charge of Marvel. Nothing after 2015 happened. You know what I mean? Then you're going to get a bunch of people like, well, I got like 10 years of comic books that you know what I mean? That's disrespectful to them. They're still customers. I wouldn't, but I would fix it. Like, I want to address the Krakatoa era. I want to address like the whole Peter Parker, Mary Jane thing, you know, the One More Day, address all that. That could be good story grist, you know, for future drama. The X-Men, like, we were acting weird. Are we even the X-Men? And they're doing DNA testing to find we're plant beings. You know what I mean? And then they find the real X-Men are still buried under Krakatoa, stuff like that. I don't know. But to just to dismiss it, I don't know. A retcon is a bad. Yeah, forget about this. This never happened. Or it was a dream. I don't know. Yeah, find a way to undo the Captain America was always Hydra, the communist Ta-Nehisi Coates did to Marvel. That is just how did they? Now, were they just so blinded by his limited celebrity that they let him do whatever he wanted, or does like everybody in Marvel think that was a good idea? Like, they needed somebody to be like, no, you bend the characters, you don't break the characters. You know, Captain America pays people's mortgages. We got to make it so that this character still turns the lights on over at Marvel Comics. This is bigger than you. You know what I mean? Like, RJ, if me and you write the Fantastic Four is bigger than us. You know, we contribute it. You know, we put another Lego on the Lego sculpture, but we don't knock over the whole sculpture and then rebuild it. I don't know. This was this was just a slap in the face to all Captain America, to Captain America, the character, which in a way is bigger than Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. You know what I mean? Like, I think Sherlock Holmes is bigger than Sir Conan Doyle, right? You know what I mean? Like, you got to respect that. Captain America is a part of American culture. I don't know. Am I making sense? Am I rambling?
No, you're making sense. Story, yeah, there have to be a story fix. Definitely have to be a story fix.
Yeah, I think it was established that the Hydra Cap was revealed to just be a cosmic cube. And then all of a sudden everybody scrolls. That's been done to that too, while the real one was held up. I'm glad that they redid it, as lame as it is, but like they gotta undo that. You can't just have Captain America. Have it like, I don't know, like the fifth sleeper agent. Remember that wonderful Jack Kirby story, The Sleepers? So this is a sleeper that's activated, that's acted like Captain America, while Captain America was doing something else. Speaking of respect for the past, one thing I noticed in the media as I watched growing up is that they portray people from the past as idiots. Yes, that's called presentism. I detest presentism. That's when we take the morals and attitudes of the present and then judge people in the past by them. Now, I'm also a hypocrite because there's certain people that I do have presentism towards, like Muhammad. You can't have a child bride when you have access to the divine. You know what I mean? When you claim to have a connection with the all-wise, all-powerful, all-knowledgeable, eternal being, and then you're doing things that are horrible, you know what I mean? I write you off. But like George Washington having slaves, he didn't claim to have access to the divine. He admitted that he was a flawed human. And he was a flawed human who did some remarkable things, did some horrible things, but he is not a prophet, didn't start a religion. He founded a nation based on great principles and then aspired to achieve those principles. But do you see the difference? Like Moses, I'm sorry, religious people, but Moses did horrible things and, had access to the divine. He should have been better. Like, he's one of my least favorite people in history. I used to love him because I pictured him as Charlton Heston. But like, if you read Book of Exodus, some things that Moses did, you're like, oh God, like, Jesus, whether or not you're religious or not, Jesus didn't do anything bad. The worst thing he did was whip the money changers out of the temple. And I think we all kind of think that's cool. Buddha, I have affection for Buddha, I'm not Buddhist, but I respect Buddha. But whatever. Presentism. The founding fathers owned slaves. Yeah, they did. That's the way the world was at the time. And they set it up so that we could have a nation that fought and ended slavery. John R.J. Supergirl is projected to have made less than Morbius in the theaters. Any thoughts? Yeah. Make a good movie. Nobody wants to see a movie about a drunken Supergirl trying to fly in from planets to get laid. That's not Supergirl. Supergirl should be the sweetest, nicest, cutest girl with superpowers. Basically, it should be like what every little girl would be, like the ideal little girl with superpowers. Sweet. She has like a Barbie dream house someplace, and she's got this flying cat, and she's got this cool horse that she flies, and and then later on, then you introduce Sydney Sweeney as Power Girl in the sequel, and she's the drunken, troublemaker, disturbed girl from another planet whose whole universe got destroyed, and she's the antithesis of Supergirl. There you go. If a dumbass like myself can come up with it, and then you train your actors and actresses how to deal with the media. Shut your mouth, say complimentary things. Didn't they learn anything from like this trio of women badmouth? It's not made for men, blah blah blah. Supergirl is the one character that should be sexy to men, and all girls would be like, that's what I want to be. That's cool. She's sweet. She's nice. She's feminine. I don't know. They did everything wrong. Now,
I think one of the bigger problems with trying to get any female superhero standalone is the fact that just basic genetics is going to tell you that if you have one movie coming out every couple of years, by the time that you actually pick up some good speed, the actress is most probably going to be too old to actually pull off the role anymore. There's a couple, I mean, unless you're making B movies or almost the equivalent of B movies, then you're cranking them out like Underworld, or like the what we're just talking about, Resident Evil. There's a couple of exceptions, but for the most part, yeah, you just can't do it. It's just the way it works, the way the world works.
Yeah, I don't know. I liked the Superman movie when I saw it in the movie theater, but then like when I stepped back for it, I saw the flaws. It's like Superman and Supergirl should be the most wholesome superhero movies ever. They should be, just like the comics. They're the standards that everybody else, they're the father figure, and Supergirl, she's not the mother figure. That's Wonder Woman. Supergirl is like the daughter figure. She's supposed to be the sweet daughter that of you know what I mean. I know she's the cousin, but they're not the love interest, and she's not the spouse. She's the younger little sister of Superman, and she should be the sweet, wholesome girl. How did they get this? She goes to other planets to drink. It's just so stupid. The gall that they thought that was going to sell. And then I got no problems with the actress. I assume she can act. And I know that they purposely made her look unattractive. She's a good looking girl. I've seen pictures of her where she was like downright stunning. Same with that other girl that played Snow White. She was in the Shazam movie, and I remember going, wow, that girl's really pretty. She's going to be a movie star. And then she opened up her mouth and sabotaged her own career. Just learn from Keanu Reeves. Just be gracious, thank everybody, be happy, be pleasant. You're overpaid. If I'm wearing a shirt that represents my company, I'm told when I get, I work in construction. When the building is built, we get laid off and we go to another job. So I go to different companies all the time, and I do the same thing. I'm an electrician. I go here and I do, the only thing that changes is the color of my hard hat. You know what I mean? And I go, and they all say the same thing when you get hired. If you're wearing anything that represents our company, we don't want you going to bars. After work, if you're wearing, fourth age apparel, don't be drinking in a bar. Conduct yourself professionally. Change, so the guys who drink literally carry two shirts, and they change their shirt before they leave so they can go to the bars. And I'm just a construction worker, and my company is worried about public relations. You know what I mean? Like, don't be driving like an idiot, and then you get pulled over and you're in the newspaper and you got fourth age apparel on your shirt. You could lose your job over that. Now, why do these actors and actresses feel that they can say all this stupid stuff when they paid $150 million to make this movie, and the weakest link is the main actress? I mean, part of me feels like they know better. They're doing this on purpose, and I can't figure out why, because this is like the fourth or fifth time in a row this has happened. What do they say? Once is an accident, twice is a coincidence, three times is enemy action. This is like the fourth time. How does these major studios, in a time when nobody's going to the movies, in a time where Hollywood is panicking, they have these young, dumb girls arrogantly insulting the audience? And then on top of it, the movie's bad. So is this part of the psyop? Is this a conspiracy? And if so, what is the end game? And then they had this super low budget movie that somebody stole the plot off of Reddit, making bank. So like, Hollywood, get your act together. I was going to curse, RJ. You make me a better person, not cursing. Sorry, I ranted for a long time, and RJ didn't even get a chance to talk. What do you feel? Am I crazy? Yes, I am crazy. And I'm gonna. No,
you're absolutely right. No,
yeah. You got to talk. I gotta go fill up my coffee because I don't have enough caffeine, as you can tell.
No, John's absolutely right though. And especially, well, here's the thing that I was going to add to what you were saying, John, is the fact that, again, what I was saying is that you can't take women and expect them to be super beautiful forever especially when you're getting movies, if they're going to be sequels coming out every couple of years. It's just not going to work. Whereas I think the male counterparts of that understand the longevity of the ability to have an acting career within Hollywood. Because I mean, you can take an old guy, like, I mean, take Clint Eastwood, throw him on a horse, doesn't matter if he's 90 years old, he's going to have a good movie. And the longevity of male actors is much longer than female actors, and perhaps that's got something to do with it, because they're realizing that I'm only going to be able to actually pull in the box office draws for 10 years maybe. So they have much less of a forward thinking, I'm going to have to make sure that everybody always likes me kind of attitude.
Sydney Sweeney is the poster child of that. They gave her in an interview, she said, I'm a woman in Hollywood and I know my shelf life isn't going to last, so I'm going to exploit it for all it's worth right now. And so she knows that. She goes, and I'm going to be as nice and as gracious as possible. How is that like the most shocking thing out there? This is a woman who hasn't said anything bad about any of her coworkers. She knows why she's got her job, and she shows everybody why she's got her job. And like, the male gaze, she's like, the male gaze is paying my bills, so the last thing I'm going to do is insult the men. I'm trying to be tactful talking about Sydney Sweeney, but there's two big reasons why everybody likes Sydney Sweeney. I think there's three. I think her personality is she's got great personalities. We'll leave it at that.
That's a Louis Prima song, isn't it?
Yeah.
She's got a wonderful personality.
When people tell you what Jesus would have done, remember this. Yeah, I love when atheists try to tell you what Jesus really meant.
I just had an exchange over my last video about a guy trying to argue that entire thing, and I said, "Hey, listen, Jesus got angry, so you can't say all anger is bad. There is a righteous anger," and he's railing at me like some kind of atheist.
It's funny because I used to tell people like, hey, I said, hate is an emotion. We evolved it for a reason, so therefore it serves a purpose. I said, but if you're going to tell me hate is bad and love is unequivocally good, you're going to tell me you've never heard of anybody doing something for love that they shouldn't have done? So we evolved emotions. They're neither good nor bad. It's how we use them that is good or bad.
You're very Augustinian, John. That's exactly what he would say.
It's funny. A guy at work just started talking to me out of the blue about Marcus Aurelius. But I got to. It's funny. I already talked about Mike Gustovich last week. I don't want to say anything bad. The Supergirl writer is going to tackle Wonder Woman in Teen Titans. Good. That'll save me and my wife $200 because whenever we go to the movies, we go out to dinner. Well, we love going to the movies, Hollywood. My wife and I love going to the movies. We go, we make a date out of it. We love the previews. We like, let's go see that. Let's go see. I'm so mad we missed The Sheep Detective. That looks so charming. I hope that's still playing someplace. And then we get excited. Then afterwards, we go to dinner and we talk about it. But before COVID, we would go to the movies like twice a month. And now there's nothing worth seeing. I want Daniel Moonstar to have her mutant powers back. The Scarlet Witch trick still makes me angry. They took away some of my favorite mutants. I wish the Scarlet Witch would say no more progressives. There are actresses who manage to keep working successfully even in their later years. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
When you change, but you have to change directions. They're actual actresses. Right. They have the ability to play multiple kinds of roles. I was just watching Red Velvet, or was it National Velvet? And the actress who was in Murder, She Wrote, she was like, I don't know, 15, 16, right?
It was so cute. She had those big, beautiful eyes when she was young. Yeah.
But yeah, they have the ability. I'm just saying, if it's twisted steel and sex appeal that you're going for in order to draw in your audience, that has a shelf life.
We're living longer lifestyles, and I think men especially. I think most men, what we find attractive ages up too. I mean, I still find Cate Blanchett to be one of the sexiest women in the world, and she's nearer to me in age than not. And
And when John met Linda Carter, he just about, fell to his knees. And
oh my God, she was so pretty. I mean, that's Linda Carter. She's the exception to every. Her and Monica Bellucci are like sculpted by God. They're just not even human. They're so beautiful. They're like. I think they would have been worshipped if and I'm almost not even joking. They're so beautiful that like I think people would have thought they were divine back then. But anyway, I went to my friend, one of my work partners just died suddenly, and we had a service last Saturday. So last Saturday I went to this service, and then we ended up going to this bar that one of the other guy's brother owns. So it's called Daisy's in Patchogue, and it's based on Dukes of Hazzard. So as you can imagine, all the waitresses there are wearing Daisy Dukes. And I couldn't look at them because these girls are like 19, 20 years old. And I said to the guy next to me, I said, these girls are closer to kindergarten than me. And I just, like, they look like babies. Like, yes, they're physically attractive girls in Daisy Dukes, but like, it just felt wrong. So I was like, I can't even look at these girls. Like I realized then and there, it's like if you're under 30 years old, you're a baby. You know what I mean? So get back to the actress part. I think it's all a lie that they only look at young women. Like, I don't know. Like I still think Kate Winslet is one of the most beautiful women. Kate Blanchett, I think Hollywood actresses are either lying to us or lying to the actresses. There's nothing wrong with older, attractive women. I think it's better. These young girl actresses, they look like babies, and at the risk of sounding weird, like I didn't even want to look at these girls and it's funny because one of the guys was like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Everybody else was like ogling them, but me and Andy were the two oldest guys in the bar, and I'm like, yeah, like they're closer to kindergarten than to me. And that, like, I realized that's like wrong, like, I don't know. Yeah, they're beautiful women, but like, geez, they're babies. If they sat in the corner and started coloring in a coloring book, it wouldn't have fazed me. And it just made me think, like, there's nothing wrong with older women. Let's put older women in movies. Who's making this lie up that men don't want to look at older women? It's such a lie. Hollywood, there's nothing wrong with older attractive women. Yeah, non-blue haired, septum pierced women. Yes, that's disgusting. Covered in tattoos. I'm sorry, men don't like women covered in tattoos. There's nothing more beautiful than a unblemished, beautiful woman. I don't think today's actresses can pull up those kind of roles because instead of embracing their age, they struggle with it. Yeah, and then they get lip fillers and they look weird.
Big face.
Like, my wife laughs because when we go to the movies, they got Nicole Kidman coming out. The magic of the movies, and I literally cover my face. I'm like, I can't look at her. She is the personification of the uncanny valley. She got so much plastic surgery that looking at her is scary. And at one point, she was like one of the top world beauties in the world, and then now she's a monster. Sorry, Kate. Because I know Nicole Kidman watches this channel. Nicole Kidman, I'm sorry, but you're a monster now. I can't look at you. And my wife, she smiles and she looks at me because she knows it's coming, and I forget every time. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like looking at her through fingers. Hey, can I get in on the Fourth Age construction branch? I got like roughly a year of work under. There you go. You got your first. We need an apprentice. Could you bacon, egg, and cheese, salt, pepper, ketchup? Don't mess it up. Coffee, light, buttered roll. I think part of the reason they push for unattractive women in movies is because some of the women behind the scenes don't want the competition. I think you're closer than not. I think it's because all of these unattractive women are making movies now, and they, RJ, you heard that study by Legos. Legos wanted to see how to sell toys, and they found that when boys pick up a toy, the boy becomes
the boy wants to be the character, whereas the girls want the character to be them.
Correct. So when male director makes a movie, he wants everybody to become the characters, and the character is a sexy woman. So he hires, but then you get these women like what's her name, Kathleen Kennedy. They want to put themselves in the roles, and they don't want to hire Linda Carter. You know what I mean? They're not Linda Carter. They know they're not. So they get women that are Rose Tico. Like, sorry, but I don't care. I don't go to see Star Wars to see this dumpy girl that looks like Spanky McFarlane in space. Like, sorry. The fact that she lived was the most disappointing thing about that movie. Yeah, Gal Gadot, she's a beautiful woman, and you could see how uncomfortable she was when she was with that girl in the Snow White movie, saying all those things. Like she didn't want to partake of that. And then when they had that horrible guy who played the Flash going on about the patriarchy and stuff like that, asking Gal Gadot to spout off, she was really uncomfortable. It was like the most cringe-inducing thing I've ever seen. Gina Carano is very graceful. I'll say what's her name? The one that she fought is very graceful too. I like both of those women that fought, and I just wish the fight was more than like 2.5 seconds. I also confess to something. I tried to direct market my voiceover series to Eric July a couple months ago, but I never heard back. Well, doesn't mean no. Remember, unless they say no, it's not a no. That's something I live by. I asked out girls. They didn't say no. They didn't say yes, but they didn't say no.
John's philosophy
somehow, despite being the romantic gender, the men seem to inherently be more realistic about business. I'm starting to think men are more romantic than women. On average, of course. Angela Lansbury, Betty White still kept strong careers even when they got older. Be a lady, behave with grace. Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Remember the warning about leaven and bread? I don't know the warning. Hey, Tony Grigo's here. Ironically, the ending of King's Woman of Tomorrow is a better ending than the film adaptation. I'll take your word for it. Tom King is a psyop. He still works for the CIA, right? Is that the one that used to work for the CIA? You don't retire. So. The only difference between when he used to work for the CIA and now is now he gets 2 paychecks. It triggers out ancient Neanderthal PSCT gene. The uncanny valley. Yeah. I think so. The thing about Kelly Mary Tran is she's actually a little heavy, but pretty girl in real life. Kennedy just, yeah, I know. I've seen pictures of her, and I was like, what a shame. They're doing the same now with the Airbender. Like all the girls, the evil firebender girls, they're all these like chubby potato girls. But then you see them in interviews, and they're actually attractive. It's like, come on, when you watch the cartoons. Princess Azora, the firebending Fire Nation queen. You're like, that girl's insane, but I would date her because she's crazy hot. You know what I mean? They don't have that crazy hot. They just have like, oh, you're crazy and you look like a potato. You got to have that. Men like attractive women. What do you want me to say? Oh, good for you. You got a job today. Good. I'm never touching anything with Tom King's name on it. Yeah, I got hoodwinked by Richard C. Meyer, but he also got hoodwinked. So I'll defend him with the Mr. Miracle. So I bought like the first 6 issues, but I didn't read them. And then Richard was going off on them. So I bought the first 6 issues. By the time I found out that it was a bad ending, I had 7 issues and I never read it. It's still the I will read all comics that I buy, but nothing's stopping me from putting it back. I'll get to them eventually. That's how I avoid reading, because I will read it when I get to it, but the way I keep pushing it back, I'll never get to it. Anything you want to say, RJ? I know I've been talking.
No, I think we got to the end of the chat, and we've been going for about 20 minutes. So
2 hours, 20 minutes. Anything you want to say? Anything you want to bring up before we go?
Now we are pretty exhausted today, John, except for people viewing, of course, as always, my channel. The links for Crown of the Destroyer, which is on Fund My Comic, and John's book on Fund My Comic are both in the links to them in the description. So just to let everybody know, you can also find his Christmas story, his Christmas special, which right. That's a Fund My Comic right now. I don't have the link for that though.
So just to let you know, this Friday I'm launching on Kickstarter. I always like to give Luke the first dibs because he's been so good to me. But we are launching. It's Christmas in July. Next Friday night, I will be launching the Heroic Tales Christmas special on Kickstarter, and there will be added stuff. I put like all of my past cards and everything like that because Kickstarter allows for add-ons. So you could buy this stuff. You could get the cards, T-shirts, and a couple of other things that I wasn't able to put on Fund My Comics. So if you check this out and there's stuff that you want, but you're already backed on Fund My Comic, just email me and I'll reimburse you for any postage. I'm not out to screw anybody. I just want to sell comics. You know, I have a job. All the money that I make from comic books goes to making more comic books. And again, I'm not out to screw anybody. I think I'm the best deal in comic books. $10, 2 complete stories. You don't have to wait months. The comic is already done. You know, and click this notify me on launch. You know, that also helps with Kickstarter promoting me. So check that out. We're going to be launching on Kickstarter, and then just to let people know, RJ's. I'll bring up RJ Crom the Destroyer. Where am I? What's going on? Oh, okay. I got to reduce this. Crom the Destroyer is available on Fund My Comic right now. RJ, you're almost done.
Oh yeah, we're almost done with the book. This is their second chance campaign where you can get the book. Just anybody to let you know, this is just the second chance campaign. We originally were on Indiegogo. That's where the main bulk of our money came from. So you don't have to worry about we're not going to reach our goal. That's fine, because this is a second chance campaign. The book is going to come out, and anybody who ordered on Indiegogo is going to get the book. So don't you worry about that.
There you go. So thanks a lot, everybody. Bye, RJ.
I'll see everybody on my channel on Saturday and back here next Wednesday because John works on Thursday.
Oh no, I'm working. Whatever you want. If you want to do it Thursday, we'll do it Thursday, Wednesday, because I'm working till I can't stream until midnight next week. Next week, I'm doing the overtime shift, so you know, back to midnight for 1 week. So if you want to do Wednesday or Thursday, you just let me know. Whatever you want.
All right, we'll have to leave it there because John and I will hammer it out for next week, everybody.
Okay, yeah, I'll keep everybody posted. Thanks a lot, everybody. And I gotta say goodbye, kids.